Spin-off oddaja kritiškega posnetka posladka oziroma bočen projekt imenovan EMFAZNA ZALEDJA je podcast oddaja, ki bo v letu 2025 pokrila izbrane umetniške festivale, ki se v Sloveniji odvijajo izven centralizirane prestolnice. Vsaka epizoda podcasta vsebuje uvodno predstavitev festivala ter krajše pogovore z izbranimi sodelujočimi umetnicami in umetniki. Poleg zvočnega gradiva projekt vključuje tudi pisano likovno kritiko, ki nastaja v sodelovanju s spletno platformo za umetnostno kritiko, platformo Koridor križišča umetnosti. Vsak festival bo namreč pokril po en pisec, ki se ukvarja z likovno kritiko in pisanjem na področju sodobne umetnosti. Šesta in tudi zadnja epizoda letos pritiče festivalu Pixxelpoint, ki se novembra odvija v Novi Gorici in Gorici. To je 26. mednarodni festival sodobnih umetniških praks. Glavnina festivala letos poteka med 13. in 23. novembrom. Zadnja epizoda tega projekta je nekoliko daljša, vsebuje kar 6 izčrpnih pogovorov z domačimi in mednarodnimi umetnicami in umetniki. Zadnji pogovor z umetnikom Juanom Duartom vodi 𝐉𝐮𝐚𝐧 𝐃𝐄ℎ. Pogovori potekajo v slovenskem in angleškem jeziku. The project titled EMFAZNA ZALEDJA is a podcast series that covers selected art festivals in Slovenia that take place outside the centralized capital in the year of 2025. The sixth and also final episode of this year focuses on the Pixxelpoint festival, which takes place in November in Nova Gorica and Gorica. This is the 26th International Festival of Contemporary Art Practices. The final episode of this project is longer and includes 6 conversations with Slovenian and international artists. The last conversation with the artist Juan Duarte is hosted by 𝐉𝐮𝐴 𝐃𝐄ℎ. The interviews are conducted in Slovenian and English.
Preprosto na ARIS, na slovensko pač agencijo za raziskovanje pa inovacije, vlagati projekte, ki so primarno zastavljeni znanstveno, se drugače sploh ne prideš not, ampak imajo pa kar konkretne dele metodologij zastavljenih izrecno umetniško, torej kot umetniško raziskovanje. Pa ne bom zdaj kot Žižek, ne, da je situacija odlična ravno zato, ker je vse narobe pod svodom nebesnim.
Vemo, da potencialno mogoče bi ta planet lahko bil habitabilen, ampak še vedno je tukaj toliko dejavnikov, da ne moramo čisto zares vedeti. In to tudi pol razgalja pravzaprav neko to našo idejo, kako bi mi potovali nekam, v bistvu še vedno nam ni jasno, ne, kako bi tja potovali, kako bi tam lahko živeli, kako bi, tudi če bi človek hotel potovati.
The whole piece is built upon a research that I did 2-3 years ago on climate change misinformation online, or sometimes full-on conspiracy theories on climate change. There are certain aspects of Bach as a character and the Bach's music that somehow, for some reason, resonated a lot with a lot of this kind of conservative and right-wing, sometimes conspiracy theories, bubbles of the internet. Yeah.
And then when I started with astronaut training, I got the feeling right away that we are in a military structure. And everything, even though it was only for a week, it felt like for a month.
I came up with this idea to make a 3D scan of the entire station, but using photogrammetry, which is like a process where you take a lot of photographs.
I was doing this research about mnemonical techniques and devices, even like some tangible things that are able to help in memory. During my research, I found this interesting artifact.
Če bomo uporabljali ta tool za to, da bomo delali ful veliko nekega brezveznega kontenta, pa pač bomo imeli veliko brezveznega kontenta.
Z menoj se pogovarja eden od 4 kuratorjev festivala oziroma eden od 4, ki so zasnovali letošnji Pixxelpoint, Peter Purg. Ostali so še sicer Benjamin Gruner, Francesco Scarel in Katarina Podobnik. Pozdravljen Peter, zdaj prosim povej mi, kakšne so glavne specifikacije letošnjega Pixxelpointa?
Ja, tematsko smo ga postavili v okvir 4. prostora, ne? Ki bi naj postavljal rešitev po tistem 3. prostoru, ki je nudil neko srečno, boljšo popoldansko zabavo človeku, ki je čez dan delal. Umetnost in znanost sta mu služila za to, da je postajal boljši človek, da je svet postajal boljši in lepši. Popoldan pa se samo še družimo, seveda, ob znanosti, umetnosti. Tehno fevdalizem, ki je z precej veliko močjo udaril zadnjih 10 let in udarja vedno bolj repov in glav, te hidre je vse več, je enostavno toliko zaprl prostor razmišljanja, soustvarjanja, da smo se ga mi odločili ne odpreti tistega zaprtega, ampak postaviti en drug prostor. In to je ta spekulativni ali pa imaginativni četrti prostor. Mogoče se igramo tudi za to četvornostjo, torej smo 4 sokuratorji in smo vsak mogoče prispevali eno dimenzijo. Tema festivala je opredeljena tudi po nekih tematskih sklopih, ampak mogoče je, ki niso nič posebnega, torej seveda okoljske stiske, identitetna vprašanja in tako naprej, tu nič ni novega. Novo je mogoče to, da smo se posebej potrudili festival odpreti v to neko lokalno čezmejno skupnost, skušati najti še neka nova občinstva, kot se temu reče, jih povezati, zato smo tudi naredili predfestival, torej nek junijski anteprima, smo rekli pripix, pred Pixxelpoint, kjer smo se srečali povabili smo nekaj ljudi od daleč in predvsem od blizu, iz tega somesta, iz te čezmejne regije, prediskutirali te teme, videli, kaj stoji, kaj ne stoji, koga bi mogoče še povabili, na kak način uplesti, kak zbalansirati mogoče performativne forme, tudi recimo glasba, koncertni formati so zelo pomembni, vse meni osebno ali pa vse dvema od nas bili, pa smo jih mogoče malo zmanjšali od prva načrtovanih. Junijski festivalski vroč ob Soči je bil mogoče bolj razigran, tale zdajle jesenski, novembrski je mogoče bolj zaprt, je bolj razstavni, smo šli še v kako celo prizorišče več. Prizorišča sama smo odklepali ali pa jih celo najdevali, recimo ena galerija nova, Raštelje 6, ki je prej sploh ni bilo, zaradi Pixxelpointa se pravzaprav odpira oziroma postaja iz zasebnega prostora nekakšen prostor umetnosti, upamo kulture v prihodnje. Povezovanje z drugimi festivali, recimo z Rethinkable čezmejnim festivalom, tako imenovanim festivalom čezmejnih transformativnih ekonomij in pa skorajda radikalna angažiranost naših študentov Akademije umetnosti Univerze v Novi Gorici, namreč ti nastopajo v ključnih produkcijskih vlogah. Imamo vodjo PR, videoprodukcija v celoti, fotoprodukcija v celoti, če hočete desna roka produkcije celega festivala, ali pa jaz nastopam kot mogoče vodja ali pa lokalni vodja te mednarodne kuratorske skupine. Gašper Ribernik mi je ogromno pomagal in celo nekatere programske elemente, kot je študentska razstava, naprimer, prevzel skorajda sam v neko kuriranje. To so fenomeni ali pa procesi, ki smo jih vedoma, malo pa tudi eksperimentalno z nekaj rizika razvijali zadnjih 8-9 mesecev.
Zdaj, če se mogoče vrnem prej na omenjeno to tematiko letošnjega festivala, torej v katalogu naprimer zapišete, da ta tradicionalni tretji prostor, kot si ga že omenil, ki sta ga pač bojda opredelila Ray Oldenburg in Jill Bennett, ki je kot nekoč služil kot stičišče umetnosti, znanosti in družbe, danes pa kao ne nudi več varnega prostora oziroma razmisleka za povezovanje. Na kakšen način ta prostor ni več varen? S tem, da ne obstaja?
Obstaja, samo je inficiran z algoritmom, z utvarami, lažnimi obljubami, strahovi, pa malo tudi čisto realnimi, spet tveganji, ki prihajajo od velikih jezikovnih modelov oziroma tudi umetne inteligence, sploh ko se ta zdaj mogoče za umetniški prostor širi na vizualno, zvočno, temu več ne gre zaupati, odpirajo se seveda tudi vprašanja glede avtorske avtonomije oziroma avtorskih pravic avtoric in avtorjev kot takih. To je bila mogoče ena dimenzija razmisleka, druga je seveda, da te nove tehnologije ali skozi nove kanale in nove kode, pa niso toliko novi, vse so že tu kar nekaj časa, ampak glede na njihovo popularno razpršenost oziroma nekako sprejetost, torej robotika, samovozeča vozila, vse te stvari, ki jih imamo vsakodnevno, vprašanja identitete oziroma resničnosti posameznih komunikacijskih situacij, podatkov v njih. Vse to je, v zadnjem času, vsako leto, že 26 let pravi Pixxelpoint in podobni festivali medijske oziroma dobro sodobne umetnosti pravijo, res je situacija slaba, pa ne bom zdaj kot Žižek, ne, da je situacija odlična ravno zato, ker je vse narobe pod svodom nebesnim. Ampak če sploh v neki novogoriški ali pa goriško-čezmejni situaciji periferni zberemo ta čas, prostor, povabimo ljudi, zberemo sile, zberemo, če hočete, finance, lokalne, nacionalne in nadnacionalne. Potem moramo za vse te zelo očitne probleme ali pa izzive ponuditi nek odgovor. In mi nismo hoteli ponuditi toliko teoretskega pogovora, torej še več ali pa še bolj raznoliko paleto umetniških vizij, ampak dejansko zgraditi prostor, dejansko postaviti situacije, čas, prostor, če želite, ki bo ljudem dal ta nek občutek varnosti ali pa vnovične povezanosti, če tudi so v to vključene prav te iste tehnologije oziroma umetniške, pa ne samo umetniške, umetniško-znanstvene prakse. In to je zgolj hipoteza, bomo videli, če bo to uspelo, ne? Ker pravzaprav smo s tem pripeljali not še več tovrstnih tehnologij, praks, paradigem, razmislekov. Boste pa opazili, da je mogoče za en medijski ali pa sodobno umetniški festival leta 2025 nenavadno malo nekih AI in podobnih del, čeprav nekaj čist malega je. Zelo se tudi nekih dosti tradicionalnih formatov umetniških ali pa vsej takih, ki smo jih poznali v prejšnjih desetletjih.
No, vsekakor gre za festival, kjer je v ospredju torej neka ta intermedijska umetnost, novomedijska umetnost, raziskovalna umetnost. In zdaj enkrat v eni izjavi ste enkrat dejali, da v umetnosti najdemo to, kar je v znanosti prepovedano, ne? Moje vprašanje bi bilo, kar se mi zdi, da se še zmeraj pojavlja nek dvom ali pa pomislek pri ljudeh, ki niso v bolj rednem stiku s tako umetnostjo ali pa jih mogoče to ne zanima. A je v bistvu ravno to, da lahko prek umetnosti, kjer se dogaja neka drznost, absurd, eksperimentalnost, ekstremnost, igrivost, pogum, neka bolj radikalna interdisciplinarnost. Sploh razmišljamo in včasih po nesreč pridemo do nekih potencialnih zanimivih znanstvenih, tehnoloških idej in rešitev. A je to eden od glavnih pointov in gonil takšnih projektov in takšnih umetnosti, ki pač torej rečemo novomedijska raziskovalna? In a se je v praksi, po vašem mnenju, ko imate dovolj že nekih večletnih izkušenj s tem, pa tudi mogoče s študentarijo, izkazalo, da je to pozitivno, uporabno, ali je to vse še do tok mere fikcija in a je okej, če je fikcija?
Pa tu se odpira ogromno dobrih idej, novih perspektiv, zanimivih spekulacij, kontraspekulacij, ne, teh kritičnih pogledov na družbo kot celoto in posebej moče, če ste izpostavili znanost na znanstvene, tako nekako dosežke ali pa predpostavke, ugotovitve, kot same metodologije, torej način, na kateri se pride do nekih procesov ali pa okvirov, ki jih družba vzame za svoje in tako more biti, ne, se pravi, tako načrtujemo tehnologije, tako se med sabo, pogovarjamo, urejamo družbo, politiko, medicina, vse to, ne. Umetnost je zelo dobra, da obrne gledišče, da postavi prava, nova vprašanja. Vse to je bilo že pogruntano in poklukano, dokler, ali pa pravim, vse je v redu, dokler, in seveda se to ogromno krat zgodi, ni to ravno tako apropriirano strani velikega kapitala in tukaj lahko govorimo tudi o kapitalu znanja, ki si ga lastijo ne zgolj samo zlobni molohi mednarodnih IT korporacij, ampak čisto lepo tudi univerze in drugi institucije, tradicionalne institucije znanja, inštituti in tako naprej, da bi se umetnost izvila iz tega apropriativnega primeža, v katerega vedno znova zdrsne ali pa vstopi, je zvabljena, vede ali pa ne vede, večinoma z namenom, kot odkrivamo ravno zdaj, evo, spet Jens Hauser o tem objavlja naslednjo knjigo in še marsikdo se strinja, da znanost pričakuje od umetnosti kakšno zanimivo novo metodo, malce predrugačeno orodje, da bomo še boljše popadli, zagrabili to vprašanje ali karkoli že počnemo znanstveno z znanjem ali pa z resničnostjo. da bomo dosegli nova občinstva, ne? Seveda, da bomo bolj jasno lahko predstavili, narisali, zaigrali, ozvočili naše itak neprizivne ugotovitve znanstvene oziroma znanstvena dognanja, procese, popularizirali znanost. Ne? To so ti, bom rekel, zdrsi, apropriacije, tudi pogosto manipulacije pač umetniškega, bom rekel, umetnic, umetnikov, ki vstopajo v to polje, ki je dost dominantno. Seveda z celo vrsto svetlih izjem, ker res pride do nekih temeljnih zasukov, kjer se tudi konec koncev umetniška stran takih sodelovanj predrugači, inspirira ali pa tudi opremi z dejansko dobrimi, relevantnimi podatki, kar je včasih za umetnico, umetnika tudi problem, ali pa lahko uporabi neke te visoke tehnologije, no evo, zdaj, če smo spet pri neki intermedijski umetnosti, jih tudi apropriira zase, včasih celo uniči ali pa poškoduje in je to, ampak kot vemo, ne, in kot žvrgolijo žižki ptički, kapitalizem vse apropriira, tudi to, ne, tudi vse te napake, zdrse in pravzaprav kontriranja upore zna obrniti sebi v prid oziroma s tem preživeti. In zdaj tukaj smo verjetno v nekem začaranem krogu ali pa Mobiusovem traku, še vedno pa je ravno to, evo, za študente, ki ste vprašali, kar privlačno polje srečevanja, ker mislim, da je zelo jasno, da samo umetnost v svoji hermetični, če jo predpostavimo sploh v umetniških mogoče šolah, akademijah, so stvari še dosti studijske, zaprte, malo se gre ven, redko se gre res tako radikalno v neke sprege z drugimi disciplinami. Pa na drugi strani podobno, ne, znanstvena edukacija jih kar drži v slonokoščenih stolpih do konca mastra vsaj, ali pa tudi na doktoratih. In potem je včasih že prepozno, ker je pač mind zaprt, socialne omrežja so opredeljena, bom rekel, bolj monodisciplinarno, in tukaj gledamo zdaj te kariere od mlajših pa do že zdaj starejših etabliranih art scientistk, če hočete, pa lahko pride do res super zanimivih stvari, ki so tako znanstveni skupnosti kot širši javnosti, kot seveda tudi umetniški skupnosti zanimive.
A pa opažate mogoče kakšno razliko ali pa kakšen propad, kar se te tematike tiče pri nas in pa mogoče v tujini? A je ta interdisciplinarnost ali pa mogoče, zdaj če čist poenostavim, neka želja nekih znanstvenikov, da bi resno sodelovali z umetniki, a je tega pri nas manj ali enako kot mogoče v nekem mednarodnem prostoru in zakaj?
Jaz sem kar tak spekulativno, ali pa bom postavil takole. Pri nas je tega manj oziroma se to dogaja težje in kasneje prihaja do tistih pozitivnih transformacij, recimo, ki sem jih prej omenil, ne, ki so res mogoče prave vzajemne transformacije, ne pa apropriacije, pač navadno močnejše strani za šibkejšo stranjo. In pri nas je recimo, da umetniška scena, čeprav moče dobro podprta, in zdaj se bomo takoj spomnili, ja, pa imamo zdaj interdisciplinarno področje pri Ministrstvu za kulturo, ne, na novo, tu not bi to naj spadalo, ne, verjetno, bolj kot prej, recimo intermedijsko področje, če že, čeprav si imel tudi, mislim, da te pač upodabljajoče prakse, pa odrske prakse, torej uprizoritvene in tako, so vsi nekako stopali bolj ali manj plaho, predvsem pa bolj ali manj, predvsem manj podprto finančno v neke odkrite sprege, kolaboracije, ne, se pravi vnaprej nastavljene z znanostjo, ki bi umetnicam pa umetnikom dale eno tako enakovredno pozicijo, torej da prinesejo, konec koncev gre za denar, neka svoja sredstva, z svojimi produkcijskimi sredstvi, primarno celo mogoče odločijo pa nastavijo proces enega takega sodelovanja. Namreč, če to pride iz znanstvene strani, ki je navadno finančno bolje podprta, tudi pri nas je, in ne samo znanstvene, tudi recimo politične. Slovenija je imela eno desetletje, zdaj je mogoče malo to zamrlo, ampak je imela lepe projekte in kar globoke vreče nekih teh inovacij, dajmo inovirati, pa ne med znanostjo, umetnostjo in družbo, ne smo zajezdili ta val, ampak na koncu je delovalo vse skupaj ne toliko s figo v žepu, mislim, da je bilo mišljeno kar odkrito ampak je predvsem je delovalo kratkoročno. Ne. Prišli smo do nekih primerov, mogoče kakšne male razstave in projekta, ki je potoval po svetu, prišel celo na kako Ars elektroniko, se pokazati, ampak da bi pa to bilo trajno, ne, se pravi, predvsem, da bi se ustanovili neki poligoni, neke platforme, ki bi bile trajno financirane, to pa je, prepuščeno je spet komu, ne? Umetniški strani, recimo, Kersnikova deloma dosti manj aksioma, recimo, da je Kersnikova en tak primer, ki je vzpostavila skozi 30 letja neko mašinerijo tovrstnih praks, kjer mogoče tudi oni lahko primarno narekujejo teme, ritem, metode, ampak seveda so razen na programcih, na katerih so vsi, ne, na programskih razpisih, pa ne samo nacionalnih, seveda tudi potem nekako evropskih, so odvisni od neenakomernega dotoka sredstev, ne, in s tem tudi pozornosti. Če gledamo znanost, je pa konstantno in precej stabilno financirana. No, zato smo eni, in se med njih vpisujem, začeli preprosto na ARIS, na slovensko pač agencijo za raziskovanje pa inovacije, vlagati projekte, ki so primarno zastavljeni znanstveno, se drugače sploh ne prideš not, ampak imajo pa kar konkretne dele metodologij zastavljenih izrecno umetniško, torej kot umetniško raziskovanje.
A je mogoče pod to kategorijo spada tudi projekt AstroTopix, ko je v bistvu eden od tudi vaših projektov, ki je letos v neki nadgrajeni ediciji razstavljena tudi na festivalu?
Ravno ta je netipičen, ali pa je tipičen zato, da nismo imeli nobene platforme, nobene prijave, ničesar. K sreči sem jaz pač nekako vodil ta dva programa pri EPK, torej Postmobilnost pa X-Mobil. X-Mobil je kot nek potujoči laboratorij, umetniško-znanstvena platforma, ki je v obliki avtomobilske prikolice opremljena za marsikatero rabo, in ko smo ji dali solarije, pa filter za vodo, pa tako naprej, da lahko nastopa v avtonomno, se pravi off-grid situacijah, smo ji pa v nekem mogoče še malo radikalnejšem igrivem ekskurzu dodali medzvezdno kapsulo za potovanje rastlin na eksoplanete, ker smo ta planet zafurali. Torej, kar hočem reči, produkcijsko je to bila precejšnja gverila, oziroma tako, kot bi mogoče moralo biti v neki romantični zgodbi, ko se znanstvenica, umetnik, znanstvenik, kurator, umetnica in umetnik, ne, to so zdaj Andreja Gomboc, vrhunska astrofizičarka, Doroteja Dolinšek, Nejc Trampuž, moja malenkost, dobesedno dobijo skupaj in rečejo, najprej imamo tabula rasa, nismo imeli teme ničesar, imeli smo nek skupni interes, tematski, in mogoče jaz sem sestavil to skupinico in potem smo šli vandrati na Kras in sedeti ob reko Vipavo in skupaj počasi poslušati naravo in sebe in drugega. Res tako, from scratch, nobenega teksta na začetku, nobene prijave. Ne? In iz tega je prišlo bolj k sreči, pa smo bili toliko, bom rekel, koščkasto vse podprti od teh EPK sredstev, da smo to zvozili tako produkcijsko kot sicer, in evo na Pixxelpointu zdaj imate že 2.0 iteracijo tega Astrotopa X, ki je taka spekulativna medzvezdna potovalna kapsula za rastline, ki izberejo, na kateri samostojno izberejo, to je zelo pomembno, samostojno, avtonomno izberejo, na kateri planet se bojo preselile.
Zdaj, ko sva se vrnila na festival Pixxelpoint, v čem bi mogoče rekli, da se Pixxelpoint razlikuje od ostalih intermedijskih, novomedijskih raziskovalnih umetniških festivalov pri nas, naprimer IZIS, MFRU, Speculum Artium in tako naprej. Kot aktivni na sceni, kaj si mislite o tej številčnosti teh festivalov? A je okej, da jih imamo toliko, da mogoče trajajo toliko krajši čas, a bi bilo boljše to združiti pa narediti neko resno Slovenian Ars elektroniko?
V Ljubljani, ne? Ne, ravno z naravo se mi zdi, da ni nihče od teh naštetih v Ljubljani, da so nekako na periferiji, tam so zrasli samo Niklo in tam ostali, za vsemi seveda težavami, ki jih imajo. Včasih res pride tudi do perifernosti nekih gledanj, pozicij, celo izjavljanj teh, če hočete, kuratorskih, tematskih, zato smo tudi mi nekako se potrudili biti, ampak dobro, mi smo zdaj ne imeli nek periferni kompleks, ampak bolj to, kako združiti, vendarle imamo kuratorico Katarino Podobnik iz Hrvaške, dobro, reški prostor, Francesco Scarel, tržaški čezmejni, to italijanski prostor, ampak smo šli pri zbiri umetnic pa umetnikov kar daleč, ne? Pa Benjamin Gruner je iz Nemčije, ne? Tako da smo skušali že, to je mogoče malo nenavadno za en slovenski festival, dobro, recimo, da smo imeli zadosti sredstev, ker smo skombinirali neka programska redna sredstva festivala, pa še EPK-ja, ne? Čeprav smo zelo štedili. Ne? Če pogledate 60 avtorjev sam na tem festivalu, 40 dogodkov, mislim pa brez, da bi pa skušali smo, ne da bi prekarizirali kogarkoli, torej kuratorji in tudi avtorice so lahko ustrajali pri svojih, ne vem, gažah za FIA in tako naprej. To je zelo pomembno, zdaj ne vem, kak je to pri drugih in verjetno ni take velike razlike. Mogoče čisto pluralnost prizorišč, no pa vse to imajo drugi tudi. Ampak to, da imamo poleg mestne galerije pa centra, ki se nekako ponujata in bi jih lahko čisto lepo napolnili, pa bili dovolj, imamo še 7 drugih, nekih mikroprizorišč, nekih malih, evo, presno omenil, tudi eno čisto novo galerijo skoraj sprožamo, poganjamo, ne bi bilo treba, pa to delamo SIA, torej bivšo upravno stavbo solkanske industrije APNA, smo za Plaza Protokol sodelovali s Šumin atolom, napolnili z eno krasno site-specific, dobesedno skvotersko postavitvijo, pač otvorjeno ravno včeraj. Tudi ne bi bilo treba, ogromno dela, ogromno iskanja, s Franceskom sva 3 mesece tavala po somestju, kam bi postavili Plaza Protokol, ki se rad zažre v obstoječe, seveda ne prostore, pol prostore in smo na koncu našli to občinsko stavbo, to od občine zdaj v lasti, prej od pač Moloha, Panhovo, zdaj 𝐈𝐯𝐚 v lasti, vsak bi se je najrež od križa držal stran, ne vejo, koliko je tam noter azbesta, ampak ravno tam ga ni, ker je tam bila upravna stavba. Ogromno parkirišče, super real estate, ne, blizu Nove Gorice v Solkanu, tako rekoč v mestu. Pa smo včeraj začeli ob otvoritvi, evo, z prisotno ministrico in tako razmišljati, kako bi bilo to fajn, če bi pa študenti imeli tam mogoče zdaj do nadaljnega svoje studije in tako naprej. Študenti sami so prišli s to idejo in to pomeni neko pač odpiranje novih prostorov, kar mislim, da so počeli tudi drugi, tako da tudi tu ne vidim neke razlike na koncu. Zdravo se mi zdi, da nimamo velike Ars elektronike v Ljubljani, ker smo vsi skupaj mogoče večji ali pa bolj resnični kot Ars elektronika, zato ker tu pridejo res tudi ljudje občinstva, ki sicer ne bi, dobro, v Linz se zgrne 100,000 plus ljudi in je neko svetovno romanje v kontradikciji samo sabo z svojim zelenim sporočilom, ampak tja se zgrne 100,000 ljudi in evo, pa še diskurs ima, mogoče to, imamo 2-dnevni simpozij, tudi ne bi bilo treba, pa smo ga sforsirali, dobesedno pridejo keynote speakerji od kar daleč. Danes, jutri zjutraj se pripelje 𝐕𝐢𝐚𝐳 𝐃𝐄 s Flixbusom z Berlina, ker se zdaj ljudje z busi pa z vlaki vozijo in smo čim manj leteli, pa vendarle imamo ene zanimive pozicije na 2-dnevnem simpoziju, kamor pridejo tudi študenti, ki smo ga še prekrižali z simpozijem doktorskih raziskovalcev 2 univerz v Vidmu, tudi čez mejo pa naše univerze, ki imajo paralelen session nekih svojih raziskovalnih vprašanj. Mi imamo bolj tak, recimo, da znanost, umetnost, družba, simpozij in to vse skupaj se dogaja v centru, ves čas prehajajo ljudje, ideje. To je mogoče pa nekaj res spet svežega, ne nujno seveda potrebnega za en tak sodobno umetniški festival, mi pa mislimo, da še kako nujnega.
Najlepša hvala za te izčrpne odgovore.
Sound, talking, rambalabapapa.
Yeah, you're talking great. Stefano D'Alessio.
Yep.
Okay, so at the festival you are going to have a performance, right? Titled Fuel Noises.
Yes.
So can you please tell me more about this performance?
Yeah, it is a performance about media that works with media and that has at the center internet media as a theme. So the whole piece is built upon a research that I did 2-3 years ago on climate change misinformation online. So in this research, I accumulated a lot of internet media, but from Twitter's posts, texts, PDF, books, videos, documentaries, stuff like that. There would be an example of misinformation, disinformation, or sometimes full-on conspiracy theories on climate change. And with these medias, I kind of built a small narrative about a character falling into a conspiracy spiral. The special thing about the piece, technically, media-wise, is that so we have projections, of course, theater lights and sound, and all these three things are controlled and generated in real time, interacting with what is happening on stage performance-wise. So the body position, the movements, and things like that, gestures, control and interact constantly with video, sound, and light.
On your Instagram, I saw a video of you crashing around with iPad in your hand.
Yeah.
So is this how it looks like? So this movement of yours is being reacted by the other sensors, and then these images and these sounds and lights are doing the thing.
The iPad is one of the most used sensor, let's call it sensor. So it's one. Then there is also a Kinect sensor that checks where I am on the stage, like position-wise, and how much is my whole body moving. Yes, with these two things, everything else is connected, basically. But from body-wise, this is what the two sensors are. The iPad movement, also, of course, the touch of the iPad, and this Kinect sensor for the position and the movement of the whole body.
Each time the performance is different.
Yes, it's from one side it is different because everything is interactive, and I do improvise a little. Like I have blocks of scenes, of course. I mean, I need to do certain things, but generally the timing when the next scene will switch and what is happening is always a little different. Plus, I built the software part so that the videos and the sounds, sometimes they have some randomness in them. So, for example, there is a moment in which I always need to go towards one of the 4 screens, and this, for example, is random. So I always need to check actually what is happening and then adapt to the situation. Or sometimes the media that comes through the screens are also, or like they have a random order. So I always need to kind of interact and check. So it's not only that my body and the interaction goes to control the video and the sounds, but it's also I need to kind of stay attentive to what is happening because there is a certain amount of randomness in the system, let's say.
And how long is the whole performance?
Around 50 minutes, 55. Yeah.
So is there like a story behind it? Is there like a beginning and the middle and the climax end, or is it?
There is a narrative. Yes, it is not. It is not like a spoken theater, of course. It's way more abstract. But there is a starting point, a development, and then an end. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So did you also pick the sounds, or are the sounds all part of the media?
It's a mix. Yeah, so a lot of the sounds come from, there are often videos with voices and people speaking. So a lot is coming from that. A lot of the more quote-unquote musical stuff is actual sounds that are generated in the computer that I kind of did. And all the musical part is actual reworked Bach, because I found while doing this research, I found that there was a kind of a redundancy of fan of Bach in this kind of conspiracy environment.
Bach in particular, not just classical music, but Bach.
Generally classical music, like German 18th century kind of mood. But somehow Bach was a specific one that was coming back a lot. I think because of its connection with religion, it's this kind of way of being very methodical in the way. I don't know. I think there are certain aspects of Bach as a character and the Bach's music that somehow, for some reason, resonated a lot with a lot of this kind of conservative and right-wing, sometimes conspiracy theories, bubbles of the internet. Yeah.
Are you still doing the research of these bubbles?
I do. I'm generally a big passionate about internet conspiracies. I don't do much this climate change side. I mean, let's say my ears are always open and sensitive to that because it is interesting. But now I'm exploring other bubbles or other conspiracy fields. Yeah.
I thought in a way, like, is it getting worse?
Is it getting worse? It's a good question. It's difficult to quantify what has changed from when I started the research. Is that when I started the research and I wanted to collect all these media, so I really needed to search for them actively find the weirdest platforms, the weirdest groups, and there was very few, let's say, on the quote-unquote surface. Then, in the moment Twitter turned into X, let's say, and especially now you have a lot of these pieces of media that really surface a lot, and they are really, really way more easy to stumble upon. It maybe got worse, or let's say it's surfaced more. Yeah.
Do you find yourself being personally touched by it in a way of, I don't know, losing faith in humanity when doing this research?
At the beginning, it was very depressing, but then the more and more I kind of read and analyzed, and also you see how people interact in these bubbles. Yeah, from one side you recognize how much of this stuff is going around. From the other side, this is a very slippery slope, but from the other side you also see how people are just people, that they need and want a community of likewise people around them. And I don't have the feeling, like I didn't have the feeling there is a lost cause, you know? Mm-hmm. And the internet is a complex place, and some go in complex, weird corners. But at the end, I think what was interesting for me is also the more empathetic side of it, like to recognize how it's not as demonic as you would normally think, or as extreme as you would normally think. The results of it, when they get way bigger, when they spread a lot and they get into the masses, this is really problematic. The little groups, the singular people, we are all human. It's fine. I think you see a lot how there is a difference between like the smaller groups or the private people, the private person, and then who actually has a capitalistic interest in having these conspiracies and this misinformation spread. So there are different levels.
So working on this project, did you have any other associates who helped you with, I don't know, the database, the coding,
I have a small team. So I have a costume designer, I have Max, who's here with us for generally the whole stage, the whole tech, and the whole lights. Then I have Sophie Menzinger as a producer, and I had Enrico Zago for actually helping me with the look, the visual look of everything, to give it kind of a cohesive aesthetic. And also helped me a lot with, editing the whole material and, basically collecting, editing, placing, contextualize all this found material into, something that is aesthetic or that is usable on a stage. Yeah. The more techie part, the whole interaction thing, it's kind of my kink. So I'm pleased to do it myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw on your Instagram some videos of you playing with music and with this sensor of movement and how to manipulate sound, like volume and different stuff. And I read that you also put these models like on GitHub, so people can download them and they can play it. They can play with it at home by themselves. Yeah. So is this also like part of your artistic practice, or is this more like a hobby, a side hustle?
Yes, it is part. Yes, I'm also I teach since a very long time in universities. I always have like a side of me which is always thinking, okay, how do I package this kind of techie thing into a way that it's presentable to somebody that wants to learn from it or learn how to use it. In this period, and probably also in the next year, I'm working on a website which is for performers or dancers or body movers, let's say, and it has some tutorials. It will have some tutorials for learning how to do very simple, the most effective way of doing body interactions with media. So I always have a side that also works for kind of education. Yeah, I'm since some years I'm developing a bit my own set of tools for my students, but also for whomever wants to give it a try, especially focused on interactivity, embodied interaction, and how to influence visuals, lights, and sound. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're talking about the movement, so I would not per se say that you're like a dancer or like a bodily performer, because you also integrate a lot of technology and tech stuff and sound and also information and research in it. But where would you put it? Like how the movement of the body in this physical sense, like a sports sense, is important to you and your students maybe?
Yeah. I mean, I teach in the applied arts in Vienna and in other places in Austria, always art universities though, or like creative oriented university. So I don't teach for like dancers or movers or performers directly. I give them and I propose them these tools, and then, you know, dependently from whomever, each person will have their capabilities to how to move and what kind of things. It's very like in this context of like art university, sometimes you have a dancer, sometimes you have, you know, somebody that stands in front of the computer and cut videos forever. So it's very different. For me personally, because I come from music, like when I was teenager I was playing in bands, and then I started working with computers more and more for music. At a certain point I kind of recognized how I lost the performance of it. Like I was a drummer. I mean, I still am a little bit of a drummer, but drumming is a very physical, you know, act. And then when I started switching more and more into making music with computer, then I saw that, you know, you lose the physicality of it. And I enjoyed, you know, sweating in front of or for the audience, let's say. So bringing back this kind of physicality together with these new technology kind of tools, for me, it's like super important. I think it's a way to bond also with the audience in a way that it's more empathic than, you know, sitting in front of a computer and pushing stuff and turning sliders and knobs. To have more physicality kind of talks more, usually. Yeah.
Do you ever invite any collaborators to perform with you? To have 2 people and 2 iPads?
I did work with dancers sometimes. I haven't invited somebody to perform with me. I did perform with somebody. Well, wait a moment. A decent answer would be not much. Yeah. I'm working now with a dear friend of mine, Luigi Guerrieri. We are having fun. We're kind of working on a duo of it's a performance/concert. So we do perform, but it's very concert oriented or like music oriented. But we both come, you know, from performance, so it's also a bit more performative than usual. Let's say the answer would be a little bit, but it could be more. And actually, it would be interesting for me to also explore, to combine these technologies with some like proper dancers. And I say proper dancers in referring of how I move. I'm not a trained dancer, but it is something that I will do. Yes.
Do you think you have an advantage or disadvantage when applying for funds, for example, because you could say that you go under theater, under music, under concerts, under performative art, under intermedia art. Is this like an advantage, or is it a liability because you don't actually fit the box?
I think it's actually an advantage. I think in my personal experience, I often saw that people are very happy to have some, let's say, extravagant piece in a festival that is actually about something else. So I actually often had the luck to end up in, you know, like jazz festivals, for example, or puppet theater festivals, or festivals that are not really, you know, the new media festival. So I often am in slightly other fields, and I think it is an advantage, yes. In my case, yes.
Is there anything you would like to add about your piece, your practice, or anything?
No, I think it's fine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, then thank you very much for coming today, and good luck on your performance.
Thanks.
Tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks.
Next up with us is Croatian artist Ivana Tkalčić, who is presenting her project Astronauts Without a Spaceship, Catching the Wind, at the Mestna Galerija Nova Gorica. If I understood correctly, these are in fact two related projects. First came Astronauts Without a Spaceship, and a year later Catching the Wind followed. The first project deals with the idea of thinking about the possibilities of where space exploration leads us, while the second focuses on human interactions with the Earth and broader ecological concerns. Please describe both projects and tell me how are they presented at the festival.
Okay, so I would like to start with maybe a bit broader concept of the whole project. So my work is usually, or artistic research is in intersection between art, science, technology and ecology. And this specific Astronauts Without a Training started with actually creation or idea of a creation of a space agency in my hometown, in Sisak in Croatia, which is a really specific region in a sense of industrial development, economical development and so on. And from that idea, it was also during COVID, I started to think how are we from that region and from that city, Sisak, now with the space agency, how are we going to be astronauts, or how are we going to feel like astronauts? So as we were in a kind of a limited space with the COVID, then I tried to make my own spacesuit, my own spaceship, and we did several performances in the location where this space agency, which is like a governmental institution, should be built. And after that, I got by chance, I guess, invitation by European Space Agency to participate to be in training for an astronaut, which additionally shaped the project in a sense. Then I would not maybe at this moment go further in that description, but we can also then jump to this other project, which is Catching the Wind, and it's linked to the previous one. In a sense, it's in a similar sense and similar aesthetic, the performance, but it's in location of Arctic Circle, north of Norway. And it's connected in a sense when I did research for the space exploration and astronauts. Usually all of the first trainings were done in Arctic Circle. So for me, after all this training, which was really realized with European Space Agency, which was in Poland, I wanted to maybe try also this other extreme environment to see how it would feel to be astronauts there. And then additionally, after the whole really hard experience with the astronaut training, which was completely different what I thought, I wanted to connect more kind of with nature and with elements, and this other location in Arctic was perfect for this experience. How we actually placed it here at the festival, it was set, so it's a documentation of the performances. So it was set then in that sense, in a medium of photography.
Do you also have a video of a performance?
This what we are showing here is just a small part of really brighter installation or bigger one with also video, but we are not showing the videos. We are not showing the videos. We are only showing the documentation of the photographs of the performances.
Can you tell me what was the most extreme part of this astronaut training that you did not expect?
At the start, I wasn't really sure what to expect, because when I started with the project, in a sense reflecting of this idea that we are having a space agency, it was a bit more naive. And you can also see it through the kind of performance. Not naive in the bad way, but naive, maybe more like utopistic, I would say, right? And then when I started with the astronaut training, I got the feeling right away that we are in a military structure, right? And everything, even though it was only for a week, it felt like for a month. And each day and each second, it was kind of super extreme. For example, just really short, I will discuss this in symposium that we will have later. So just shortly, like in the middle of the mission, we didn't have any more water and we needed to survive for half of the mission. And then we needed to adapt in the sense of drinking, but also in the sense of fluid washing and everything else, right? And you're not alone then, right? You're in the crew of 6 people in really small confined space. So if you have many or any phobia, it's not maybe the thing for you. Yeah.
So when I was reading through your projects, I found this term terraforming. Can you please maybe explain what it means? Like, so a hypothetical process of atmosphere.
Yeah, but actually this term I'm using kind of in a different way. For example, I mean, terraforming here in a sense, like theoretically, it means in relation to some other object or planet in the sky that we want to change in kind of in our image, or we want to change it to be accommodate for us and for not in regards with other beings that are maybe there or not. So when I was going through this research and the project, it lasted around half or 3 years or more, but the whole process. So I felt more and more that actually, first of all, I think we will probably, or we already need to terraform Earth again. In a sense, we already have, I mean, we kind of destroyed on so many levels our planet, so maybe we need to kind of bring the nature back, but not also again in the utopistic way, but some more in transformative way. And especially for the project, I see it in a sense of terraforming ourselves or our bodies, our minds. So maybe first of all we need to change that so that we can help, or so that we can do something in a sense for the planet and environment, which means changing maybe our habits that we all have.
One of the main visual points in your work here now is this shiny foil.
Yes.
Do you see it, so on the photographs and also in the performance, you were like wrapped in this foil that is quite recognizable as something that, we see in movies or in spaceships, so the silver and gold foil. Do you see it like as a visual element, or is it simply the main space material that is... this is the reason why is it in your work?
First of all, yes, this folium, which is like emergency folium that we also have in the cards.
First aid.
Yeah, first aid. So nowadays, and especially from like last 10 years or more, it has a specific and also different connotations, in a sense, in relation to migration and all other topics that we also need to deal with. But here I used it kind of in 2 points. One that you also mentioned in the sense of aesthetics, because the first performances that I did in this forest, I tried to also reflect the material that I use to have a similar... It was in reflection with the resources that we have in this space agency, which is none. When you also look it from the region from 90s till from 90s till today, which kind of was degraded in a sense. So we had really strong industries, all companies, refineries, and so on. Iron companies, which now are not really existing. And then at one point they just decided to create a space agency, right? So we just jumped from kind of nothing. I mean, we did have something, but we kind of destroyed it, and then we are just going to space. So we're just developing the technology to go to space, right? So in that sense, I felt that we don't really maybe have resources. So also my materials are a bit like more basic in that sense. This is what I wanted to show maybe in the first performances. But also this material, when I went to astronaut training, they're using it everywhere, right? Even though in the real spaceships or in the real space stations, hopefully they probably have some better materials, but they kind of look similar. So they use the same one. So I think this aesthetics is similar through all the points. And then also, for example, for catching the wind, it's really easy to kind of to use it to feel the element that I wanted to explore, which is wind.
Tell me more about exploring the wind in Finland in snow.
Yeah. So when I first came there, we came kind of in late March, and we were there till May. And the wind was super strong. I never felt that, even though, for example, I'm from Croatia and we have really strong wind on the coastline, which is called Bura, right? Mm-hmm. But this one, it was even more stronger in, I don't know, in these parameters. I think it was like 5 or more times stronger than what I ever felt. And I couldn't, and also the snow was like 2 meters, right? And I never felt something. I couldn't be outside for not even 5 minutes, right? Because everything is like in your face. Extreme. All the wings super extreme, and I understand why astronauts are training there, right? So for sure, and that wind was present all the time, of course. And then in May later, when we almost like when we were going home, when we were going back to south, right? Then it was a bit slower, no? But I think it's a constant. So and also in the location where we were, there was like a scientific measuring station, especially for the wind, no? So this was kind of also then the topic of the residency. So that's why I also wanted to play with it, no? Then we tried to find locations, and also maybe a time when the wind is a bit less to try to catch it, because if the wind is the strong as at the beginning, it's not possible to catch anything. This was my next question. Like, how could you manage to do anything with just wind blowing like crazy? Like, yeah, not really. So we needed to, for first 2-3 weeks, that's not possible. But then later you're trying to feel. But maybe you also adapt. You terraform your body, right? Mm. You try to adapt. You go for 5 minutes, for 10, because for locals, I guess it's more normal, right? Mm. But for us, it's interesting. All the artist residents were more from south, from Greece, Croatia, Italy. So for us, it was like, wow, this is the experience. So I was trying slowly to catch the wind, and then when it was perfect, kind of in the middle, in April, we did it. But also the wind, the sky, it's amazing, it's changing so fast. So you need to be prepared for everything, because within a few minutes or 5 minutes, it could be sunny and then extreme.
Mm. So for the listeners, maybe how exactly did you catch the wind?
Well, it was more a trial. I would say it was more a trial, because I know maybe this title is also a bit too strong in a sense, because the wind was more catching me, I would say. You cannot catch anything.
Before you were talking about your place in Sisak, yes. So how are they trying to build this space agency research place?
That's a really interesting question. So this document was official from 2019, right? And that's like the first Croatian official document for the space agency, which is publicly founded. So it's also created by the government, right? Because before we had association, but that's a different thing. And then they were like really enthusiastic, but also it was before elections, And then they had a specific location. And I also talked with the potential director, I can say. They had interesting ideas. Because we had these strong industries 30 years ago, right? And then we also have like everything in a sense, middle school, high school, university, in this small location which is related to these industries. And now in this university they would like to also put like one like space research program for students to study. So they had a lot of plans, but so far I'm not really sure if that really happened, because on these locations I didn't see a change in a sense of building buildings. But maybe now we don't need buildings. But also there was earthquake, right? So maybe that slowed them down, and COVID, because it was all before. So I don't know.
Yeah, because I checked the website, and the website
is a bit like
yeah, but it's there.
It's there,
so
but it's a bit like not so officially looking.
Your projects are to a certain extent performative and experimental and are happening somewhere in the extreme environments.
Yes.
Then how do you approach their presentation with the line of the gallery spaces or
Yes.
festivals? So usually it's like some kind of archive and documentation,
Yes.
something like that? Or do you sometimes search to, I don't know, do something more extreme and creative? Or
For me, that's always a tricky part because with the documentation, you cannot really show all this experience that you had. For example, especially for the astronaut training, it was so extreme, and for that I also see like the whole week, performance week. I mean, in a sense, it was a week-long performance, right? For me, for example, with this agency that I took this training, I tried to ask, I asked for the video also because we were recorded 24/7 in the whole station. But as they are kind of branch or related to military, it was super secretive, so nothing. And also, for example, you will see there are some photos of the ship, the simulation, but I mean, you cannot really film everything. It's something, right? Because everything was so secretive. We can and cannot share information. I'm not sure about this at the moment. So actually for me the best is through kind of discussion, artist talk. So I like to share with any artistic research that I do with the public. It would be perfect even if it's documentation, that we have some kind of event so that we come close to the public and then we share the experiences and so on. No? And the other one is through workshops, which we will also have on Saturday. So the workshops depends also, could be for students, middle school, high school, general public. So through that, I also share the experience, and then we do some kind of mental, physical exercises or something, how to stay calm in extreme environments.
so what will you do in this workshop at Pixxelpoint?
In this workshop, as I mentioned, so the first one is kind of more sharing the experiences. I don't know, it's more like to maybe inspire, I'm not sure. But talk about these topics. And then later maybe just some short exercises in relation to, I don't know, breathing and mental focus when people find themselves in any kind of extreme situation, which is nowadays more and more every day, every hour, depending on what is happening right in the world, so that they can remember that they should breathe. Or maybe remember some of these exercises, and then they can use it for themselves, for terraforming them, no?
In what way do you think your work or projects relate to this year's theme and the overall curatorial direction of the festival?
In the sense of borderless and beyond? Yes. So for that, I think these projects are trying kind of to show, I mean, it's like space, infinity and beyond, right? So I think that kind of literally goes there right away. But I'm trying also through these workshops to see that this borderless can happen in our minds. And usually that is through our mental state and through our breathing, which is really hijacked now by all the media and all the things that are happening. So I think the focus is on people inside by themselves, but together in a group. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anything you would like to add?
Thank you. I just want to invite everyone for the symposium and for the workshops and for the opening of the exhibitions, of course.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Zdaj pa z nami še Nejc Trampuž, ki je del širše ekipe, ki na festivalu predstavlja projekt Astrotop X 2.0. Gre za nadgradnjo projekta, ki je bil na tem istem mestu, torej X centru v Novi Gorici, predstavljen že lani. Ekipo sestavljajo še Andreja Gomboc, astrofizičarka, Peter Purg in pa Doroteja Dolinšek, ki je letos tudi razvijala to nadgradnjo projekta. Z Nejcem bova malo poklepetala o tem projektu, potem bova šla pa še na nekaj njegovih avtorskih projektov in stvari, ki so tudi na festivalu. Pozdravljen, Nejc.
Živa.
Prosim, opiši mi mogoče na hitro ta projekt Astrotop X, pač torej v prejšnji obliki. Kako izgleda in kaj je sploh fora?
No, jaz lahko predvsem opišem tisto prvo iteracijo, kjer sem bil res aktivno zraven. Projekt pravzaprav nekako združuje tematike ekologije in pa astronomije. Zdaj zaradi tega, ker vemo, da tukaj v bistvu se ekosistem hitro uničuje, da pač v bistvu tudi za ekosistem sam niso več pogoji bivanjski, recimo na Zemlji, prav zelo dobri. In ker vemo, da tudi je neka tendenca recimo vesoljske industrije, da iščemo alternativne recimo habitate v vesolju za človeka, ne? Smo mi vzeli to kot izhodišče, ampak smo obrnili logiko od tega, da je človek tisti, ki potuje v vesolje, da je ekosistem tisti, ki potuje v vesolje. Ne? In smo vzeli en drobec kraškega ekosistema, predvsem rastlinja, pa pač zraven so še neki mikroorganizmi recimo, ampak v glavnem kraškega rastlinja, ki smo ga postavili v to kapsulo, v Astrotop X kapsulo, ki se pravzaprav avtonomno odloča skupaj z rastlinami in pač v bistvu preplet te machine learning algoritma in pa inputa od rastlin se pol odloča, kam bi recimo lahko ta ekosistem potoval, kje bi recimo lahko bil potencialno pravzaprav primeren habitat, ne, ki bi bil ugoden za to, da bi ta ekosistem lahko tam uspeval. Ne. Zdaj seveda tukaj se ful nekih vprašanj odpre in nekih dilem, recimo čisto o etiki tega, a je sploh etično, da mi pošiljamo neko življenje iz Zemlje na nek drug planet, ki ali je mogoče prazen, ali pa ima mogoče celo neko življenje, ne vemo zares. Se pravi, ta algoritem išče po bazi podatkov od nas in te podatki so v bistvu zelo pomanjkljivi. Pač vemo mogoče nekih par osnovnih informacij o teh eksoplanetih, ne pa zares prav dosti. Tako da v resnici še vedno je to tako. Vemo, da potencialno mogoče bi ta planet lahko bil habitabilen, ampak še vedno je tukaj toliko dejavnikov, da ne moramo čisto zares vedeti. In to tudi pol razgalja pravzaprav neko to našo idejo, kako bi mi potovali nekam, v bistvu še vedno nam ni jasno, ne? Kako bi tja potovali, kako bi tam lahko živeli, kako bi ali človek, ali rastje, ki je tudi, če bi človek hotel potovati, mora biti del neke te ekspedicije, a ne? Kako bi to vse potekalo, to je pač vse zelo v zraku. No. Ampak naša ideja je bila pa itak, no, da človeka nekako izključimo iz tega lupa in da pač gremo stran od nekega antropocentrizma in da probamo v ospredje postaviti ekosistem, ki je na udaru iz strani človeka v bistvu na Zemlji in zaradi tega za ekosistem iščemo alternativno bivanjsko okolje.
Torej, rastlina v bistvu išče prostor, ki bi bil čim bolj podobno temu, iz katerega ona izhaja. Torej kras, ona išče second best kras.
Ja, v bistvu.
In te podatki, ki si rekel, da so od nas, a to so taki javno dostopni podatki?
Ja, NASA ima veliko nekih podatkov in slik in stvari, ki so javno dostopne in se lahko uporabljajo za razne projekte.
Kaj pa ta, rekel si, eksoplanetov? Kaj pomeni eksoplanet?
Se pravi, eksoplanet je vsak planet, ki je izven našega osončja. Se pravi, gledamo neke sisteme, ki so okrog drugih zvezd, ne? Se pravi, ne okrog Sonca. Najbližje je približno 4 svetlobna leta stran. Mislim, to so ogromne razdalje. 4 svetlobna leta prepotovati, to je tako big task.
No in zdaj, ta projekt je bil poimenovan kot torej eksperimentalna raziskava, ki prepleta astronomijo, ekologijo in nove medije. Zdaj, kakšni so pa bili takrat, no, vsaj neki te aktualni rezultati? A je ta rastlina našla kakšen plac, ki bi bil potencialno ok, ali so te boksi, ki jih ona čeka, da bi jih minimalno rabila za life, sploh bili doseženi? Ja,
vsake toliko se je pojavil kakšen, ki je recimo da približen ok, a ne. Ampak tako, kot sem rekel, mi vemo toliko malo nekih podatkov o teh eksoplanetih. Tako, tudi, ko smo snovali projekt, ko smo se pogovarjali, kaj vse sploh lahko damo noter v to, kjeri so parametri, na podlagi kjerih se ta algoritem odloča, je bilo teh parametrov v bistvu zelo malo. Pa so nekateri zelo relevantni, a ne. Mogoče neke take zanimive stvari, kot so neki koti, a veš, pod kakšnim kotom je planet postavljen, kar mogoče ti za nekaj pomaga, ampak ne veš pa kakšna je gravitacija. In pač je gravitacija ful velika in vse zjebe.
Kakšna je bila pa potem prav tvoja vloga pri projektu? A ste vsi delali vse, ali ste si to vse skupaj malo razdelili? Kaj si ti delal?
Mi, da so v bistvu z Dorotejo nekako skupaj snovala in idejo, pomagala pri realizaciji, zdaj 2.0 je pa pač ona pol na podlagi nekih že težav oziroma nekih možnosti za nadgradno, je pol ona pač to tudi nadgradila in poiskala pač rešitve, kako to pol tudi v praksi izvesti.
Na dejanskem razstavišču pa to v bistvu je vsaj takrat lani, pa zdaj tudi na nek način izgledalo tako, da so v bistvu te rastline dejansko prisotne pač v prostoru, v neki taki cute kompoziciji znotraj neke kocke, ki v bistvu nekako simulira pač to kapsulo, kjer ta rastlina biva in kao išče.
Ta objekt je v bistvu imenovan Astrotopix objekt. Gre za kinetičen objekt, ki je priklopljen na računalnik in v bistvu, kot sem rekel, v živo se odloča, a bi tja šla ali ne. V tej škatli so noter tudi rastline in zraven je tudi ekran, ki pač pove, kakšni so rezultati te raziskave in se tudi obrača v tisti smeri neba, kjer se ta eksoplanet nahaja.
Mogoče še to, koliko dela recimo je potem znotraj projekta imela astrofizičarka Andreja Gomboc, ki je v bistvu tako tudi dosti znana pa na nivoju, pa pomembna oseba, kar se znotraj tega fielda tiče. A je potem ta komunikacija pa delo z njo potekalo tako sporedno?
Ne, v bistvu je bila precej vključena v sam proces, predvsem na tak način, da so midva lahko pač imela nekoga, s komer se lahko posvetujeva v kjerkoli trenutku, a ne iz nekega zelo strokovnega vidika, ker so pač to pač itak neke ful znanstvene zadeve, v kjer sva se spuščala in je bilo ful dobro, da sva imela pač njo. Tudi na začetku smo skupaj šli na nek field trip, kjer smo pač si ogledali recimo to pogorišče in bili cel dan skupaj in lahko pač debatirali razne tematike, nasplošno o nekem vesolju, o Zemlji, o ekosistemu, o neki tej relaciji, kako mi potujemo ven in kakšne so neke ideje nasplošno v teh stvareh. In je bilo v bistvu full valuable, da je bila lahko zraven pri celem procesu. Ona je pol tudi nas povezala z Saptašmo, ki je pol v bistvu pripravil ta machine learning algoritem, tako da je bila ona kar ključen element tukaj.
Ok, če greva zdaj mogoče še na to, kar imaš ti na festivalu, oziroma to, ko boš tudi ločeno imel neko delavnico, povej, kaj je tvojega na festivalu.
Se pravi, na festivalu bo predstavljen oziroma v sklopu delavnice, se bomo spoznali z projektom Solandium 2063. Gre za eksperimentalno solarpunk igro, ki ima integrirano umetno inteligenco, tako da pač v bistvu gre za nek mal eksperimentalno obliko igre, kjer lahko ti se z umetno inteligenco pogovarjaš o tem, kako strategijo v tej world building igri pač snovati. Se pravi, sama zasnova te igre oziroma ideja, zgodba iz igre je to, da se dogaja v prihodnosti, v letu 2063 pač, potem, ko se v bistvu sesuje nekako naš trenutni družbeni stroj zaradi ekoloških težav in tam nekje stoji nek opuščen robotski center, ki seveda ni ekološki, ni trajnosten oziroma je tudi trenutno disfunkcionalen in pa ga ti z svojo neko skupino ljudi, ki se je najdla, da bi rada obudila ta center in ga spremenila v neko trajnostno naselbino, ti v bistvu ga pač spreminjaš, in nadomeščaš recimo določene infrastrukture v tem centru in tako naprej in pač ga delaš trajnostnega.
Kaj AI tukaj dela?
In AI v bistvu ves čas ve, kaj se v igri dogaja in ti se lahko na vsakem koraku z njim posvetuješ. Pač če kdaj ne veš, kaj pa bo recimo neka ti igra ponudi različne rešitve za nek problem, ki se ti zgodi, pa v bistvu ti AI lahko svetuje, kaj bi recimo ta rešitev vplivala, kakšen vpliv bi v bistvu imela na ta nek svet.
Kot nek asistent funkcionira.
Kot nek asistent, ja. Je pa tudi v bistvu 3D modeli, ki so uporabljeni noter, so bili v osnovi generirani z umetno inteligenco, takrat je glih prihajalo ven to, da se je dal nekako generirati 3D modele, danes so itak kvaliteta gre pri teh zadevah zelo hitro naprej, tako da danes bi bilo to še precej lažje narediti. Takrat so bili pa to neki res zgodni modeli, tako da je tudi nek tak low poly estetika, neke zgodne umetne inteligence.
Zakaj je leto 63?
Dosti daleč je, da so te stvari, ki so v igri, dosti daleč je, da so te stvari recimo mogoče, ki se v igri zgodijo, obenem je pa dosti blizu, da je to tako že oprijemljivo za nas, pa da bomo to mi v bistvu doživeli. Hotel sem v bistvu pokazati neko prihodnost, ki je tudi za nas relevantna. Ne nekje čist daleč, ka pač itak bomo že 3-krat mrtvi, ampak nekaj, kar bomo mi videli.
Kaj se bo delalo na delavnici?
Na delavnici bomo v bistvu predvsem se spoznali s tem, kako je bila ta igra narejena, spoznali se bomo pa podebatirali v bistvu o nekih problematikah, o nekih pozitivnih vidikih umetne inteligence, pač kako bo vse skupaj vplivalo recimo na družbo, na trajnost in pa se pravim, pač tudi spoznali se bomo s tem, kako je bilo to v praksi fizično narejeno in kako v bistvu ta igra v ozadju deluje. No. Pa tudi kakšen drug projekt, recimo Rooted in Code oziroma Zakorenjeni v kodi, se pravi prvi film, ki je bil narejen v Sloveniji z umetno inteligenco, ko sem ga pa naredil 1 leto prej, bo tudi recimo malo predstavljeno, no, kako je bil narejen.
Midva sva se nekoč že tukaj v etru pogovarjala o umetni inteligenci, takrat mogoče bolj v navezavi na nek ta visual art, pa mogoče na animacijo in tako, ko je bil ta še Midjourney the thing in aktualen. Zdaj, to je bilo tako, 3 leta nazaj, no takrat se je ogromen spremenil in zadeve so šle naprej. Za nekoga, ki se pač torej redno ukvarja s tem in sledi, kolikor se pač slediti sploh da temu področju. Kakšne so tvoje opažanja glede umetne inteligence, mogoče iz tega vidika, s čimer se pač ti ukvarjaš? Kaj so prednosti?
Te najprej prednosti zanimajo.
Ja.
Ker jaz sem hotel reči, da mogoče imam zdaj malo bolj kritičen vidik do umetne inteligence, kot sem imel takrat. Takrat je bila to ful sveža stvar, tako ful zanimivo, wow. Sej še zdaj je ful zanimivo, ampak vseeno se skozi bolj kažejo neke tudi negativni impakti. Ne? No, ampak recimo, če gremo naprej na prednosti, zdaj zdi se mi, da vseeno odpira neke nove možnosti, a ne, v nekih, pač v bistvu nove oblike umetniških del ali pa kreativnih del ali kakorkoli že, pač se odpirajo in se mi zdi, da iz tega vidika ful smiselno izkoristiti umetno inteligenco, da naredimo nekaj drugačnega, nekaj mogoče bolj kompleksnega, konec koncev tudi neka manjša ekipa ljudi lahko naredi zdaj nek ful boljši, ful bolj kompleksen projekt, kot bi ga lahko prej, tako da se mi zdi na tak način smiselno tudi izkoriščati umetno inteligenco. Ne? Se pravi, ne da delamo še ful več vsega, ker imamo že itak povsod ful veliko nekega kontenta na internetu in tako naprej, a ne? In ga je še skozi več in zdaj vidimo poplavo nekega AI generated contenta, ne? Kar je problem seveda. Meni se zdi to mogoče malo napačen approach. Jaz bi si bolj želel, da bi imeli mogoče isto količino kontenta ali pa mogoče celo manj, pa da bi bil ta pač bolj kvaliteten, bolj kompleksen, bolj domišljen. Tukaj je to spet zelo odvisno od umetnikov oziroma content creatorov ali kakorkoli že, kako bojo uporabljali to tehnologijo. Ne? Na koncu to je sam tool. Če bomo uporabljali ta tool za to, da bomo delali ful veliko nekega brezveznega kontenta, pa pač bomo imeli veliko brezveznega kontenta, če bomo pa ga uporabljali za to, da bomo naredili nekaj dobrega, pa je lahko to ful cool. To je iz vidika recimo kreativnega dela. Ne? Zdaj lahko pa greva v debati še ful širše. Zdi se mi, da recimo ful je uporabno iz vidika znanosti, ful se lahko veliko researcha naredi in razvija recimo neke nove materiale, neka nova zdravila. Tudi uporabno je, če se vrnemo nazaj na okoljevarstvo, recimo zato, da se vzpostavi, pa recimo nadzira neke sisteme, recimo v smislu sistem obnovljivih virov energije, transport, javni promet in tako naprej, a ne, tukaj vse ful prav pride. Zdaj na drugi strani pa, ker toliko uporabljamo zdaj umetno inteligenco za, ne vem, namesto googlanja in tako naprej, imamo problem, da se moč koncentrira v rokah ful majhne količine ljudi. Enostavno je precej simpel spremeniti, kako se ta AI obnaša, ne? In kako ta AI razmišlja. Ne? In ko se ti pogovarjaš s tem AI-om, pač je odvisno od tega, kako se je tisti, ki je naredil ta AI odločil, ko bo pač ta AI se stavo pogovarjal, kakšne podatke ti bo dal, kakšne odgovore ti bo dal. In se bojim, da v bistvu gre vse skupaj precej v smeri tehnofeudalizma. Po drugi strani tudi lahko AI nadzira ogromne količine podatkov in jih analizira in zelo hitro lahko vidijo neka družbena gibanja in jih zatrejo, če jim niso všeč. Lahko zanalizirajo neke tvoje pogovore, ki si jih imel, ki bi jih drugače nekdo bral 100 let, pač zdaj AI lahko v sekundi prebere. Posod je lahko ta AI v bistvu integriran in pravzaprav gre za to, da je veliko večja kontrola nad ljudmi možna, kot je mogoče bila včasih. Ne? No, še druge stvari, ki so recimo negativne, je to, da jemlje delo. Seveda to precej trenutno, predvsem v kreativni industriji, precej čutimo. Ne? Tukaj bo mogla enostavno kreativna industrija nekako pogruntati, kako lahko zdaj s temi orodji dela neke stvari, ki jih vse neka javnost ne bo mogla delati. Ne? Da v bistvu uporabimo neka svoja specifična znanja, ki jih imamo, zaradi tega, da vseeno ostanemo recimo konkurenčni nekomu, ki pač je včeraj odprl prvič AI, pa pač bo zdaj neko slikco naredil.
Ker tudi do neke mere po moje vpliva na okus raje, da pač tudi, če je tega več, ljudje se tega bolj navadijo in pol jim te stvari ratajo dovolj dobre, kar naenkrat. Ne? Pomeni, da nekdo nekoč ne bo več rabil umetnika, da mu naredi, ali pa oblikovalca, da mu naredi nekaj boljšega in kompleksnega, zato ker se mu tis ne zdi nujno boljš, ne? Zato ker je pač navajen nekih stvari, ki so povsod.
In lih zaradi tega pravim, da je ful pomembno, da ful razmišljamo o tem, kakšne so dodane vrednosti, recimo nas, ki smo dejansko iz fielda, ko znamo delati pač tudi brez AI stvari, kaj lahko mi dodamo k temu, a ne? Ker vsem sigurno imamo neka znanja, ki lahko elevatajo celo zadevo na nek čist drug nivo, a ne? Ne zdi se mi smiselno odtepati se AI v smislu bojkotirati pa reči, ne, tega se ne gremo, pa to nima smisla, ker enostavno vedno se bo našel folk, ki bo to pograbil in nas bojo pač prehiteli. In se mi zdi zato ful boljš reči, ja, ok, ta tehnologija je tukaj, pač sprejeti ta fakt in enostavno razmišljati o tem, kako lahko mogoče to, kar že itak delamo, ta tehnologija enhansa, a ne, ali pa obratno, kako lahko mi enhansamo tisto, kar drugi delajo s to tehnologijo. A ne. Meni se zdi to boljše prav.
In omenjena delavnica na festivalu, bodo udeleženci tudi naredili kaj? Bo kakšen produkt?
Bolj bo se pravi tako, da bojo ljudje se spoznali s temi orodji, da jih bo mogoče jaz kaj demonstriral, ne bojo prav oni tam delali, lahko bojo pač doma se pa lotili, oziroma tako, imeli bomo eno verzijo tudi za osnovnošolce in s temi osnovnošolci pa bomo naredili nekih par takih preprostih zadev. No. Pač ful je teh nekih orodij, zdaj svašta se da uporabljati.
S katerim ti najrajš delaš?
Jaz v bistvu recimo precej uporabljam tako za neko tako splošno delo �krea.ai, ki ima noter integriranih veliko različnih. Zaradi tega, ker je enostavno tako, da za en task je boljša ena stvar, za drug task je boljša druga stvar in je cool tukaj, da v bistvu lahko različne neka orodja pač probavaš, ne? In pa se odločiš za enega in pa greš lahko tudi na tisto platformo delati, ne? Neko bolj specifično stvar. Ampak v osnovi pa je tukaj cool, ker je taka široka zadeva. Mogoče sem hotel omeniti recimo še dva problema AI-ja in prvi je recimo velika raba energije, vode in mineralov, ki se pač povezuje tudi na okoljevarstvo, ki je moja tematika, ne. Zdaj, kar se tiče energije, se mi zdi, da je ful pomembno, da probamo čim več teh stvari laufati na energiji, ki je pridobljena z obnovljivih virov energije, ker nažalost zdaj pač marsikaj laufa na nekih fosilnih gorivih, ne. Kar se tiče vode, je pomembno tukaj se zavedati, da voda ni čisto uničena, ker pač slišimo velikokrat, ko en promptu GPT-ju porabi toliko pa toliko vode. Saj ni, da ta voda zgine ali pa da je zastrupljena, je pa zelo segreta. In zdaj moramo mi pač najti način, kako to toploto, ki je bila sproščena v vodo, nazaj zajeta, ne. Ali da nazaj pridobimo energijo, ali da jo uporabimo za ogrevanje, a ne, menda tudi, da se upari ta voda, mislim, vsej v resnici vodna para poganja elektrarne, tako da, mislim, meni se zdi, da bi lahko najdeli načine, kako lahko to toploto v vodi nazaj uporabimo, samo pač moramo razmišljati o tem, ne. Ne sam reči, ok, pač para je, pa jo spustimo v luft, ker pač smo full energije spustili v luftu, brez veze pa, ne. Še zadnja problematika, ki jo bom omenil, je pa fake news. Meni se zdi, da postajamo v bistvu pač toliko zasičen prostor postaja z raznimi informacijami in mi ne moramo več vedeti, kateri posnetki so realni, kateri slike so realne, kateri tekst je nekdo res napisal, pa kateri je AI generated in tako naprej, da enostavno postaja internet prezasičen z raznimi informacijami in dejansko ne moramo vedeti, čemu verjeti in čemu ne. Ful se sprašujem, kaj bo to prinesel. A bo to prinesel, da bomo vsi skozi zmedeni, pa ne bomo vedeli zdaj, kaj naj z vsemi temi informacijami, ali bomo v bistvu rekli, ok, internet kot source, ali pa vsaj tako social media, pa tako naprej, kot source informacij je postal nerelevanten, pa se bomo mogoče usmerili nazaj v neke bolj centralne vire informacij, recimo neke medije, pa tako naprej, ki jim bomo lahko zaupali. Tukaj se vedno je pol spet problem cenzure, ki jih lahko te centralizirane stvari izvajajo, ampak kako bo zdaj to medijsko krajino oblikovali to vse skupaj, ne? Tudi tukaj se mi zdi, da se nek ful velik shift dogaja, ne? Ko internet se mi zdi, da postaja, nismo mi več toliko soustvarjalci interneta, ampak postajamo bolj tisti, ki konzumiramo content, ki je bil pa mogoče v večini narejen iz strani AI, ne?
Še zadnje vprašanje, ta tvoj špil se da kje špilati?
Ja, online je dostopen, tako da lahko na www.solandium.com ga vsi odigrate in tudi film, ki sem ga prej na hitro omenil, Zakorenjeno v kodi, tudi lahko pogledate na www.root./kovd.com.
Ok, bom polinkala spodaj, da ne rabijo vsi po nareku pisati.
Cool.
Okay.
Hvala.
Ok, hvala ti za ta pogovor.
Hvala tebi.
Slišimo še kdaj.
Z veseljem. Čau.
Čau. With us now is the Croatian artist Vitar Drinković, who is presenting his work Vacation at the X Center. It's a video game and art installation that explores themes of labor, leisure, and environmental concerns. Originally, the work was exhibited in the public space of Zagreb's Central Station, a location that also becomes a protagonist within the game itself. So, hi, Vitar.
Hello.
Could you please introduce this project, Vacation or Odmor, and tell us more about its concept?
Yeah, sure. Basically, you kind of already said some good, explanations. Thing was, I was invited by this organization Okolo to do like a public work in public space in Zagreb. And the main train station was always kind of interesting space for me, so I wanted to do something there, and I came up with this idea to make a 3D scan of the entire station, but using photogrammetry, which is like a process where you take a lot of photographs, and then some software creates 3D model out of it, but it usually has a lot of mistakes. So it has like a dystopian feel about it a bit, but it's also a direct translation from reality to the virtual without any like post-processing, let's say. So exactly what was captured and by photos, like a document, is then transferred to this 3D object. And I also turned the entire station into an island. So I made a photogrammetry scan from the island Hvar and put it around. So it's a little island surrounded by endless sea, filled with microplastic. And on this little island station you can walk around it and inside it, and there's 8 or 9 3D objects. Some of them are also 3D scans of real objects, and some are like 3D replicas of works I already did, like some interactive physical works, but and in the game you can use them. But everything is kind of revolves around this thinking about physical work, mental work, virtual and real, and the relation with the body and the mind, and the general kind of existential situation for me as a like a professional artist, where it's also pretty hard to kind of live only from your art. Yeah, just the collective feel, because in my practice I talk to a lot of people from all different kind of cultural backgrounds, and that becomes also the inspiration for my work. I kind of look at the correlations between my own perception and experience in everyday life and everybody else's, and that's how these works come about. Yeah, is that okay? I mean, should I speak more about some works that are inside?
Well, yeah, that was my second question. So the game evokes the feeling of somehow discomfort, restlessness, uncertainty, and decay.
But at the same time, actually, no, it's kind of relaxing.
At the same time, but
yeah.
You see, it's like relaxing and chill and a bit quiet, but at the same time, it looks a bit like a decay, like some kind of post-apocalypse world.
Yeah.
Something is, it's like you're returning home to your station, but the thing is like falling apart, like something like this.
Yeah, and also it's like a train station that goes nowhere because it's an island, and actually it's like the daytime in the game is always a bit like sunset, so it's also relaxing and beautiful, but also like a strange liminal space because there's no other players or people or anything, so, and you can't like escape this island. And there's like the works that are inside. Some of them are like there's a big pile of money that you can come and like take and put it in your pocket, but you can't spend it anywhere. Then there's also on this exhibition here at Pixxelpoint, beside this work Vacation, there are 2 other ones, but they are connected. One is an interactive installation called Breathing Time, and it's actually also in the game. And this installation works. So the person comes, there's a belt, and they put it around their waist, and they are instructed to breathe deeply, with the abdomen, like in meditation. And as your belly expands, when you breathe in, this belt has a pressure sensor, and it's connected to 9 reflectors. So when you breathe in, the light in the room becomes much stronger, and then when you breathe out, it kind of lower, so it follows your breathing exactly. And this light also powers a solar powered clock, which doesn't have a battery, so it only works when you're breathing. So it's kind of breathing time. It's called. So since we have so little breathing time, it's also like this kind of competition and burnout kind of way of life, I guess, not having too much time to reflect and slow down. And so that one is in the game, and the other one is working in extended reality, which is a realistic, which you view like a hologram through your mobile phone. So it's like a 3D model in space, and it's a realistic 3D model of a nuclear silo and rocket, and there's an animation in loop, going in loop. So the nuclear silo opens, the rocket comes to half and then comes back down, and the silo closes, and that goes like continuously. And also in the game, there's when you walk around, there's this part with this sunbathing chair, and when you sit on it and like don't get out of the chair for like 5 seconds, the screen kind of, you can't move anymore, and you hear the sound of a train coming, and in the end like the sun explodes like an atomic explosion, and then the game restarts. So these works are kind of connected like this, like real, half real, with this XR and the totally virtual in the game. So yeah.
So those pieces that are in the game were previously already existing in the real world. So
yeah,
you were
some of them,
were putting them in the game post festum.
Yeah, yes, some of them. Yeah, some were like concepts for work that is maybe that's too expensive to make.
Also the one with gas bombs and sitting chair in the middle.
It's called Unrest, and it would be like a metal construction with heat resistant glass on top, and there would be like this sunbathing recliner on it, and but there wouldn't be any fire yet. So the person would come up there and lay down in the chair and try to relax, and after a few seconds there are like these gas-powered burners beneath, and they would turn on, and basically they would burn until the person is laying down. And the inspiration for this was, well, you know, how you go on vacation or have like 2 weeks of, let's say, vacation, but your brain doesn't let you relax. You always kind of remember, it reminds you of the things that are done or whatever. So it's kind of this inability to detach. But that one's from 2021, the concept. Yeah.
So if you would get a vast amount of money, would you build it?
No.
Would it be safe to build and to practice?
Yeah, it would have to be safe. I could, but I don't know where I would store it later. So maybe if I get the funding and then immediately it would get sold after that, no problemo. Yeah, institution.
Some institution who works
some
like
bank.
saunas and
or bank or like stock market trading or something like that. I think that would fit in that environment.
So if we go back to this game piece, the original game was exhibited at the actual station, so random people played it, and they were limited to 15 minutes, right? So what was the reaction of people, and did they finish the game? Did they win it? So,
yeah, I mean, there's no winners in the game, but the thing with 15 minutes was because it was on the train station, so people don't get, then to miss their train. But yeah, it was funny because it was right beside, like, that bank machine and stuff like that, So it looked a bit like it was that, and it was also beside the information point. But yeah, I saw some people playing, and I think it was interesting for them. In the game, you started at the exact same point where you were, like, in reality as well.
So I saw that the whole setup was with the mouse and the little keyboard.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to use this and not the controller, maybe?
Well, I'm a PC guy,
okay.
So basically that's it. Playing on PC. Yeah, and I got used to the mouse and keyboard, and the controls are the same as most games that are on PC, and that. So VASD and mouse.
You mentioned before that the whole thing is on the island, and like the coast resembles Hvar. Why
It
Hvar?
is like the photogrammetry scan of a part of it. Yeah.
Yes. Why Hvar?
Well, I'm from there. Kind of half of my family is from there, so that was the most convenient, way to get the scan.
Do you wish to expand the game or do more games like this?
Yeah. I'm actually now. I'm studying like on the Angewandte in Vienna. It's on MA. It's called Experimental Game Cultures. So basically, it's exactly kind of this direction, and I'm going like expanded sense of what is a game or using it in an art context. So yeah, I am like going to develop this stuff more. And this game I actually upgraded a little bit for this exhibition with like one more model, which is a beach ball that has the texture of the globe, like planet Earth. So when you walk around the level, you can also kick the ball around. And now the last thing I'm doing, which is also a game, is connecting neuro and biofeedback to the game. So and the game is called Being You Love. And basically in the game, you are connected to this neurofeedback and biofeedback device, and you walk around Lake Jarun. So which is in Zagreb, the lake in Zagreb, and I made a 3D model of it, which is kind of which is realistic.
Also the depth.
Not really. Well, I get it like the surface level. It's like a whole part of the city is kind of the level. So, but basically the idea was you would walk by yourself around this lake, which usually people either you use for exercise or go with friends or family. I mean, it's used for a lot of things, but usually like for some health or relaxation stuff. And basically you walk around this lake in the game, and weather conditions, time of day, like fog and all kinds of these natural things that happen are changing the way your body is reacting to it. And it's also about grief. One part of the inspiration was about grief. So just kind of walking around by yourself, thinking about your life or people or creatures you lost or didn't lose or whatever, and seeing how your brain and body reacts to that. Yeah, so kind of meditative.
Do you think you will continue to use your personal spaces as an inspiration? As you mentioned, you used Hvar and Zagreb mostly.
Yeah, I would. I want to also have a lot of ideas, but one idea was to make a game of a typical day in my life, so like my apartment and stuff like that, and so I really like this combination of using a virtual copy of real things and then playing around with that, but also like in this everyday but existential sense, and exploring kind of reality through doing this stuff.
And what is your experience with the general public about this topic of burnout and being overworked and not being able to take a break, even though you can, but you cannot?
Yeah. You have to sacrifice that something. I mean, that was part of the inspiration because I saw it in myself, but also since I talked to a lot of different people, I kind of feel it as a general feeling. Well, now it's even going totally overboard, I think, like in the last year or two, because it's like just the world situation is too crazy to kind of comprehend totally. So, but yeah, all of these works that I was saying, it's like the inspiration came, a few years ago. But I guess it's still going on, and even harder, maybe, I don't know.
Because it's quite specific for the people who work in culture, probably, because it's a different type of work. Also, the schedule is different, and the idea behind it, because you don't have 9-to-5 job, and you do what you love.
Well, yeah, but it also becomes a job because your existence depends on it. So you have to do all the exhibitions, like make works with very little money, apply for this funding, pray that you'll get the funding. And you also do sometimes some 9-to-5 jobs or some other commercial jobs. Even if you have like a steady job, there's always some problem, like a bad boss or something. So I think it's just the general state that nobody can escape from. Yeah. So, but yeah, in the cultural field, it is precarious in different ways, just because you don't know if you get the funding or financing and stuff like that.
Do you listen to your own advice of breathing deeply?
Yes, I do. I try to always work from this place of inner calm, kind of try to achieve it and get my ideas and plan out everything from that space. I think I would go crazy if I did that. I'm kind of okay now. My burnout wise. I set it like a goal last year to have enough sleep, to go to sleep earlier, because I was really like a night creature, I guess, and eat healthy and exercise a little bit every day. Nothing too crazy, but I think that, like enough sleep, good food, a little bit exercise, like a base, then it's much better. Yeah, and also like, I guess, discipline, so you don't postpone too many things, and then it's less stress. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe the last question: in what way do you feel that your work here connects to this year's theme of the festival?
Oof, complicated question. Well, I don't know. I mean, because it's intermedia, it combines all kinds of. It's also about the way of life and existence now, which is like in this between space, also with GPT and everything. Like in a sense that how it's also shaping me and people that when you use it. So it's kind of a strange upgrade to you. So yeah, I mean, by just about what we talked about, like the explanation of works and stuff, I guess.
So once again about this game, is it possible to play it anywhere else than to come to exhibition? Mm-hmm. Is it like on Steam or whatever?
Yeah. No, not for now. But when I like totally polish, like I want a little bit more stuff to do to it. And I want to do it alone. I have like I work with a guy on this, so I make all the 3D thing, and I have a 𝐉𝐻𝐚 𝐃𝐻𝐕𝐿 co-worker that's very good in Unreal Engine, like the platform for making video games. So he actually makes it so I can move around the game. But I want to learn myself to work in this program, so I can tweak it. I don't want to bother him, you know how it is when you can't tell the other person like move this 1 centimeter here, they go crazy. So yeah, but when I finish it, I would like to put it like on Steam, either free or €1 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, at some point, yes, but for now, no. Yeah.
Okay. Looking forward to it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Benedetto, yes.
Benedetto. Indiara Di Benedetto.
Yes.
Okay. Hello and welcome. So in X-Center, you are presenting the interactive installation from the 2020. The title is Portrait of a Generative Memory. Can you please tell us more about this project and how is it presented in the gallery space?
Okay, so hi. And I will talk about Portrait of a Generative Memory, which is an installation that I made in 2020 when I was still studying at Interface Cultures department in Linz, Austria. The idea was to develop something that concerned the memory of human faces. I start doing a lot of questions about how we memorize people, their human face, and especially thinking about the device that we have nowadays that we use to record and store our memory. So I start doing this kind of relation, how we memorize information in general. So while I was, as I mentioned before, studying in Interface Cultures, I had this opportunity to explore more about media archaeology field. And I found this very interesting artifact, which is called Lukasa, that was a memory board that was helping the society that developed this object to recall specific information. This board I will just introduce briefly, so I can then pass to my artwork. This is a wooden board made with some natural elements, and each of them placed on the wooden plate. They were helping to recall specific information, so to each object an information was encoded. And I was very interested in how they developed this artifact and how it was functioning. And for me, it was very interesting to somehow not only reinterpret this device, but also to develop a new one based on the original one, on the 𝐿ukaza. So I came out by developing a wooden board, but the natural elements that in my case are stones and wood pieces, I made them conductive, so they are able to react whenever you touch them. And this device, I decided to realize it in order to create my personal controller to do portraits. And whenever you interact with this wooden board, you will see on a monitor that I like to call canvas, you will see facial features appearing, and then you can use the board to move the facial feature appearing on the canvas, and you can generate abstract portraits. And the idea behind this is that I collect pictures of people that belongs to my personal experience. I made them portraits, I took pictures of them, and then once that I collect all the photos, I extracted pieces of the face, so eyes, nose, eyes, and the idea is that whenever a person is experimenting, the person can build a unique portrait that is very abstract.
The pieces that people are putting together are hybrid that you know. A hybrid person comes up then, because it's different eyes, different nose, different mouth. It's like a collage of many persons becomes one face.
Yes, and for me it was very interesting once that I realized the installation was very interesting, the approach, the different approach that the audience have with the installation and the approach that I have with the installation, because of course the database that I built is made with, as I mentioned before, with people that belongs to my experience. So whenever I see an eye, for example, appearing on the canvas, I'm able to recognize the person that this eye belongs to. Once that I found this eye, I will start adding new elements in order to create the face of that specific person that I have in my mind. And so this eye recalls the memory of this person. But it's interesting that people that don't have any relation to this person, because maybe they never met them, or it's interesting to see, okay, whenever something is appearing on the canvas, they have to somehow start building a face according to their own memory. So of course, they combine different, as you also said, different pieces from different faces. So it's interesting also that new faces are built and they are generated through this installation. So it's very what I also found very interesting while exhibited this project is that the project also the audience has with the board is that it's very ludic. So because on purpose I didn't leave any instruction how it works. People has to interact with a device that is not usual, it's not intuitive. So they have first to start getting familiar to it, and then once that they understand how it works, they start building something.
And pieces of faces are appearing randomly, the computer is just pulling them from the database?
I mean, yes, it's random in the way of also where they are appearing in the canvas, so there is no fixed position, because I like also this kind of generative thing that they can appear whenever and you can move around the canvas. They also leave this kind of trace that it's made on purpose. And whenever you add one element, like for example the left eye, then like a new component is appearing, like the nose, and they appear in order to like have all the elements
to build
a face, yes, on the canvas. But it's kind of random, like which eye, for example, now I'm obsessed with eyes, sorry, and it's random the order in which the eyes are appearing. So for example, there is one time can appear the eye of a specific person, but the next time you press the add button, it can appear still the eye, but of a different person. The order in which they are appearing is random.
How many faces do you have in the database?
22.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is a growing archive, because I decided to like portray people like whenever I have some like connection and so on, and I ask them if they want to be part of the installation. And so yeah, for now this is a like small amount of faces, but it's planned to be like bigger because it's a growing archive. I'm planning to expand it.
So if your origin thought was about memory and how we remember people, you decided to work with faces, which is logical idea because this is mostly how we recognize each other, through faces. But did you also think about other parts of body, or maybe about the voice or vibe or something like that? I mean, my question is basically, why did you focus on faces only?
I decided to focus on faces. Actually, this idea came when there was the pandemic going on, and I had this kind of I was very afraid that like it was a very hard period where you couldn't meet people in person, and I was so afraid to forget actually like the faces of people. That's why I came out with this idea of like portraying or showing the faces in my piece.
Even if we saw each other, we wore masks. So when you are wearing a mask, also you don't see a face, and it was kind of an issue because you cannot recognize the mimic or the attitude of a person. So yeah.
Yeah. So also all the the person is not completely recognizable. It was not really recognizable. So that's how the idea came out.
So did you build the whole thing yourself, or did you have like a crew of people who did the coding or anything?
Mainly I developed from the concept part, I developed everything by myself. I did research. Of course, I got some help, especially in the programming part, by like one friend of mine and artist, Juan Pablo Linares, and also like I got a lot of help in the also hardware part by my professor Laurent Mignonnier.
One of the most interesting parts of your work is this controller board that you mentioned, because when you first see it, it looks very analog because it's made of stones and wood, and you don't know if you can touch it or you can press it. Can you twist it? How much do you press it? So I think it's a very trial and error type of thing. So the work was exhibited before. What is your experience with the crowd? How did they react to the piece? Were they able to put a face together, or did they just give up midway?
It was a very very funny and ludic experience, because of course people don't know this device. They never saw something like this, especially because it's analog. Maybe they don't realize that actually it's working as a keyboard, because the function of the board is very similar to a keyboard, because there is the button that is pressing down, or they are the moving buttons, or adding, delete. And what is very interesting, I realized when I was observing the audience in the exhibition space, is that once that they understand how to add things, they start pressing the button of adding elements. And I found a lot of canvas made of several eyes or noses, so it was very difficult, I have to say, to find somebody who was there spending so much time to understand how the piece worked. But it happens once that I found this visitor that came, and he said to me, now I will spend all my time here until when I don't understand how this keyboard works, and I have to make a portrait. And it took a bit, because of course you have to get confident and to, like, you have to understand the functionalities that there is behind, but he was really into like making a face. I found some people that they were like, okay, we want to spend time here to understand how it works, and we want to build a face. So, because I have also one feature in the, like one function in the interface that made me able to do screenshots. So I collected some of the outcome from the audience, and it's super interesting, like the different outcomes that they are generated.
So, do you find yourself being more cautious when you're looking at other people's faces now?
Yes, I really focus on faces. For me, it's very important, like to also when for example, in a conversation, if I talk about a person, I need to have like a memory of the face of the person that I'm talking with. So for me, it's very important, like the face in a person, also when I'm talking about somebody.
Is there something that you would like to upgrade on this project?
Yes. Yes, I mean, I thought so many times how to upgrade it. I was even thinking to like still develop, like to work still on the idea of the Lucasa, which is the original artifact that I took inspiration from. That there are so many possibilities to develop like interfaces also in the sound direction, for instance. Eventually redo a design of the buttons that are displayed on the board, because also one thing that I realize is that like the delete button is a button that people press so very like often, and I thought maybe it's because of where it's placed on the board, like
they can figure it out which one.
Yeah, I understood that maybe it's in a position that okay, it's the first button that I want to press. They immediately delete things, so maybe this is an aspect that I was considering to change a bit.
So if this is the thing
Yes.
that you are talking about,
Yes.
this Lucasa. This is my first time seeing it. Where did you get familiar with this
Yeah,
piece?
because I was exploring, like I was doing this research about mnemonical techniques and devices, even like some tangible things that are able to help in memory. During my research, I found this interesting artifact that also for me was like I got super fascinating by this piece, because also the story that there is behind, like to have this wooden board completely like made in with natural materials, shells, bits. There are also different models, like there is not just one type. There are some that are made like with wood, like the plate in wood, and some other natural elements on top, but there are others that are like carved, or they are just in wood, made totally in wood. And for me it was very interesting that they developed this mnemonical scheme in which like there were several objects placed on this board, and each of these objects was able to recall a specific information. And they were like saying that whenever the fingerprint was like exploring the object, they were able to recall that specific information. So to have this kind of mnemonical aid, but in a tangible way. Because I'm like coming from my previous studies that I was doing, like I was focusing mostly in video art and photography. This is my background. For me, it was very interesting to somehow going out the digital environment, or at least to bring some tangible things in the digital experience, not just to have the digital content, but to have something that it's you can touch and it's physical. So for me, it was very interesting to work with this kind of artifact, because I said it's super interesting maybe to take inspiration from it. Of course, not to do a direct intervention on that, because what I wanted to avoid during this process is like the appropriation from a specific culture. So for me, it was like, okay, it would be nice to actually develop my own mnemonical technique and device, of course, like taking inspiration from, in my opinion, very functional thing and very interesting.
Did you manage to see any of those boards in live?
No, actually, I would like to see one.
Yeah, I just saw that on Wikipedia that one is in Brooklyn in the museum,
Yep.
and so they're probably all in the biggest museums in the world.
Yeah, and it's super interesting that they, like also the documentation that it's available, or it's like about how, what is the object and which kind of function it has, but it's not written specifically like the function of each pieces on the wooden board. And the documentation available is mentioning how and when more or less was used, but they didn't find a specific date when it has been made.
Thank you very much for taking the time and for your answers.
Thank you.
Juan Duarte is a Mexican artist, researcher, and current PhD candidate at Aalto University. His research revolves around the exploration of the symbiotic relationship between nature and technology through environmental sound. Duarte creates unique artifacts that resonate with planetary energies and ancient cosmovisions, shedding light on this intricate connection. And in his innovative approach, he employs diversified technologies to develop methods for augmented listening. So yeah, hello Juan.
Hello, Cherny.
Nice seeing you here at the festival. Also, it was nice seeing your work. Maybe let's start with what you have here in the gallery. It's, as far as I understood, it's a touch designer-based installation which uses environmental data. Mostly it's wind, right?
Like weather different
weather
elements. Yes. Mm-hmm.
That then are reimagined and reshaped into visuals that you can follow and understand the gathered data. So where was the data gathered?
Thanks for this interview, first of all. And so the project started, let's say, more or less this year. I was trying to start working with data collected from a platform called Open Weather, which offers an open API for users to access in different locations in the world. You can provide geolocations in the planet, and that will return you like current or historical data. So I was interested to use kind of like data collected from places that I was doing performance during this year. So I was doing this experiment, for example, in Berlin, in Helsinki, and Norway, Bergen. And recently also, just before coming here, I did also some similar experiment in Lithuania, in Vilnius. But I was trying to kind of collect this different data to also learn how to start understanding the dynamics that play, for example, when rain occurs, no? So what kind of factors come into play, like the atmospheric pressure, how it changes, and the humidity and the wind, kind of like what kind of relations come across these different elements, and then they manifest into specific phenomena that we perceive as weather or meteorological events. So when I get the invitation to present in Pixxelpoint, I decided to kind of like shape this approach of performance into an exhibition that kind of like be an archive that visitors can access, and they can interact with approximately like 1 month of data, like every 5 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes actually. It's gathering these points. And then what I'm also trying to do is to kind of use, some kind of statistic elements, such as averaging. So I don't want that people go through each of these points of data, because that would be kind of a bit of an overkill. And kind of maybe what's more interesting is actually going through the points when the temperature or when the wind or the atmospheric pressure changes, and then we have those events that we perceive as the weather changing. And that brings into the part of creating a map of those events into visuals and sound, which again is not necessarily about keeping objective picture of that, but rather providing kind of like a bit more open and abstract interplay of those elements into some kind of representation that is kind of let a bit free to be emerging. Now, of course, I have some aesthetical decision on that, and I try to kind of play with these images of turbulences and the wind principally, because that's something that I've been working with in the last years in my research. But I guess the opportunity or the chance of working only with data and not producing that data myself with my own stations, so to say, is that I can learn or have a bit more chance or freedom to learn these aspects of interplay between different elements, the mapping, analysis, and so on.
It's interesting that you're mentioning that you can do your own interpretation of the data to kind of bring more intuitive understanding of it. In a way, it makes me think about how all the weather data is actually very precise and collected and measures a lot of specific things that actually we don't perceive in the weather, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But like also the weather itself is a representation of that data, which we understand again more intuitively and on different levels. So wonder, how are you inspired or not inspired by how we feel weather when you're trying to reinterpret the data that you know what kind of weather comes out, but doesn't necessarily, like data on its own doesn't necessarily spell that.
Mm-hmm.
So you might look at the naked data
Mm-hmm.
and without knowledge, but maybe you probably have more knowledge, you know what data means, what kind of weather.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you take this inspiration from our perceivement of the weather attached to the data, or is something that you try to kind of detach yourself?
That's a good question. I think in my research I try to think that it's not only through the instruments or the data that is produced through the instruments, the way to kind of understand, but of course the body and how we perceive the weather and how our body is adapting to those changes, those fluctuations of the weather. It's also kind of like a way that we register the weather itself. No, of course. Well, I mean, I was not here for the time that I've been recording the data, so I've been doing this remotely. But I believe, or I hope, I expect that people who interact with the piece maybe have a kind of connection when they see like the days or the weeks or some event in particular, when they kind of recognize, okay, this day was like a dry or was humid or was this rain in this moment.
Yeah, my knees hurt or
something like that. Yeah, exactly. So I could like, I was feeling sick or under the weather, as people say. So kind of like try to kind of make this possibility of having an archive of like people can maybe also reflect on their own experience. What I think is, yeah, of course, like our body is kind of like also a way to kind of like speak of that truth, no, or speak about that fact that the weather is shaping us, not only the data or the instruments.
So one more thing regarding your participation in Pixxelpoint, you obviously have this exhibition with your work, but you have also participated with a performance.
Mm-hmm.
So how connected is the performance piece to the piece in the exhibitions? Both work with the data, but is the same data, or do you select different data for different kind of pieces?
Yeah, I mean, like for the performance I did here in Pixxelpoint, I try to not use the data that I collected, but rather just concentrate on another aspect, which is the smoking mirror, which is the aspect of this sort of ritual of divination. So it's kind of part of it, but I try to separate it as well, no? Because in other performances I also try to use the data as a source for the sonification that I play during the performance, but in this case was more of was only the interface to trigger like a more sort of like a atmosphere, no, or trigger some kind of a sound piece that was kind of I could play within that kind of elements of sonic immersion, and try to kind of like concentrate more on that kind of aspect of the soundscape, but without relying on the weather data. Although I might do it sometimes, but in this case I put it apart. But maybe I have now the opportunity to talk about this performance, which is reflecting on symbolism from Aztec culture. The obsidian mirrors were kind of like used as artifacts for sacrifice, and also for like perhaps having kind of like an artifact that will be used to look into the environment. So obsidian mirrors were kind of like giving you a perspective of yourself, but also the surrounding, or was kind of like the symbolism that was projected into these objects. The story that I've been following of that symbolism is that it's connected to the winds, it's connected to divination, it's connected to kind of this speculation of like the environment and the entity, or animism, so to say. It was confused also with another instrument of weather observation. When the Spanish conquerors came to Mesoamerica and they had these kind of objects of obsidian, they thought that it was astrolabi, so a sort of object that is used for navigation and reading the sky. So this kind of confusion or misinterpretation also, I try to bring into making an artifact that combines certain aspects of measurement, the touch, the speculative aspect of divination, and triggering the soundscapes.
So is this the artifact you're now mentioning? Is this the artifact that you used in your performance? Because during your performance at Mostona, you actually had your computer, and then I think either a MIDI controller or a tablet. I'm not entirely sure. But then I also saw that you had like this custom-made 3D printed, very object artifact thing that had like a unknown purpose. Was this the obsidian mirror in your work?
Exactly. Yeah, that's something that I've been using also as an exhibition artifact, but and it works as an interface. So to put it in those terms, it's translating touch into, like, say, notes or signals that can be triggering sounds, or like the activates the.
So it's I've seen it a bit closer, but not too close, and too I didn't have enough time to kind of really take everything in. I noticed you had like this 3D printed structure that was holding part of it up, that was I think holding the interface element, which I'm not sure what was it made of.
Yeah. So the 3D print is this kind of like support or structure, but that's only holding obsidian mirror.
A real obsidian mirror.
Yeah. And then has these copper traces that are used. I mean, they are connected to a circuit to detect touch, and the gestures that I'm doing during the performance to be controlled as a kind of like a instrument.
So, in the sense of sonification, this is data is quite boring sometimes, or uninteresting in a way, or not so sound affiliated in that sense. It can be very monotonous, and if you just did like a simple sonification of the data one-to-one, you might get like a tone. So in what kind of ways do you approach the sonification of this data to keep it interesting, and how much are you comfortable kind of interacting with it, changing it so it kind of creates patterns, and audibly nice structures, and how much do you want it to kind of still feel like that you are actually kind of truthfully representing data, if I use this word?
Yeah. I think it's that's a good point actually, to maybe recognize perhaps there's a difference, no, that I always try to discuss or bring when I'm talking about sonification, is that it's not the same as music, and it has actually more of a purpose of creating evidence of truth, no, to be thought of like, for example, data visualization, something that we can understand visually and kind of grasp almost intuitively, no. Interpretation of data through visuals comes with education, no. It's like we've been educated to learn to read different ways of how information is represented, no. So there's a visual culture about how we understand different forms of data, and visualization has, of course, like this, like a very rich background also, which is kind of connected also with culture, no, Western way of, for example, reading images and so on. But the point is that it might seem that sound is kind of taken not as seriously as visuals, no. So when we work with data sonification, it's not about making it something that should sound as we expect, no. We should be open to also leave margin for unexpected results, no, and be able to train our own listening as we train our eye or our sight, our ways of seeing the world. I believe that data sonification is also a tool to train our listening.
So it's a bit like with graphs, when you take certain measurements and then plot them on a graph, and then you get certain dips. We are not surprised at it anymore, because we know to expect the unexpected sometimes if you didn't notice in the data, or maybe you see an emerging pattern that you don't see from the numbers. So if I'm understanding this correctly, you're saying that we lack the understanding because we haven't spent time reinterpreting data in an audio format, so that we would expect the same kind of either unexpected or expected results.
Yes, I mean, probably what I want to say as a practitioner with sound is that I believe that there is like a kind of like it's a bit behind maybe the visual culture, no. So ways of trusting our listening is always kind of like put as a secondary way of proving reality, no. Although I think that in reality we are very reliant also in our auditory capacity to navigate the world, no. But needs to be kind of like maybe we need to become more aware, no, that actually like sound gives also quite a lot of reference and understanding of complex phenomena such as the weather, no, that can detect certain patterns, as you say, probably like crossing different elements, as I try to say, like when there is a weather event, you can train yourself when you see like, okay, in this moment it was raining and this moment was like humid or was just dry, and how it listens, how it sounds differently across them. So I think it's at the same time more of an exercise for becoming more sensitive.
Have you trained yourself to actually notice these things? Are you actually learning that you know now when something happens just from the sound? Like, not that you would necessarily can explain the whole story, but that if you think about yourself maybe before you started with the sonification of weather events, and now you do notice certain patterns that maybe before it was just like...
Perhaps maybe not so much about the sonification itself as this kind of tool that it's in process of shaping, and there's this always kind of like a mapping that also is relative, no, to the kind of the data that you're using and the model that you're using and the synthesizer, for example, or the ways that you're designing also some certain mapping, no. So there's of course like a certain biases that we can recognize as humans, or we shape things in a way to highlight or underline, but a mapping of those phenomena is kind of like a proposal to kind of understand something, no? And it's not absolute, it's not like the truth, but it is a way to kind of like understand some approach and some relations across different elements.
Just remind me something. Your work here has sound as well, or not?
Yes, it does. It has a combination of sound and visuals.
So there is another element in the work, which is the interactivity.
It is, yes.
Which is in a way present also during your performance, but not in the same kind of participants in the interaction. For the exhibition is actually the viewer who engages with the work, and is the viewer which needs to kind of activate it and change it and kind of have an experience with that on its own terms. But for the performance, the interaction is with you, with the artifact, and then kind of the viewer is then witnessing this interaction. So what is your relationship with interaction and with this live kind of approach to changing things, and why do you think, or it's important also to create interactive work that visitors can interact with, or why?
It's my background in a way to work with interaction, but I value kind of interaction because it's about presence, no? It's about witnessing, it's about observing, it's about participating, it's about ignoring, maybe just stopping or activating and having a moment to also kind of have this experience with a system, for example, no? With an interaction system or with a piece, and acknowledge maybe like a kind of activation role, no? But not so much about this control aspect, but how, in the case of my performance, I try to that the sound is also shaping a bit back me, also how I'm controlling like an instrument, no? So I react to also the sound produced by the way that I touch it, and I would expect also that visitors of the exhibition, they also kind of like have a bit of a moment of like a realization that it is their presence and their own way of interacting with the piece what actually makes this different experience happening.
It's also a bit of an agency moment, maybe. And as you said, it also creates unique experiences because everybody's going to interact with the piece differently. So maybe there is a bit of letting go in there for you, like to kind of give control to the person.
Yeah. I mean, I think that perhaps comes from this approach that I had before, like in generative music, or I work with music from the aspect of generative systems, no? So I try to kind of like leave a bit the load of like being in control of everything, but rather letting go that kind of wish to control every detail, and being a bit more into a dialogue with the system, and
facilitating rather than creating a complete experience.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I can understand that. You were also mentioning the ancestral knowledge and the connections with it, and animism and the meteorological divinations and all of that. How did these enter into your work?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And how do you kind of balance this with actually something that's way more scientific, which is the data?
I think I started this type of artistic research in this kind of interest with interactive systems, generative computing, music, etc. So kind of like more like cutting edge technology. But I kind of feel that I was kind of having a shortcoming in just focusing on the present and short-sighted vision of the future. No? That has to be something that somehow kind of like doesn't look into the past. But I believe actually that there is this method in media theory called media archaeology. So to look into inventions in the past that were not completely achieved, that were left out from actually continue a path, and they were kind of abandoned, or they were kind of left out, no, because there were other maybe priorities or interests in society, and they didn't make it into our present, so to say, no. So I was looking into older and older kind of ways of or the history of meteorology, but still, I mean, from a very Eurocentric approach. So everything kind of rooted into the tradition of the 19th century, the Enlightenment, and since then all these kind of instruments that were used to measure and kind of calculate and predict the weather came to realize also there is kind of like line of history that points to the wish to control and into weaponize also weather, to kind of create kind of a system that humans have a control on it. I wanted to investigate ways that are different from that aspect, Instead of controlling, being attuned, being kind of like connected in a way that you can perhaps like have a more affective relation with it. Then I started like wondering, so what other stories are about meteorology that are not present there? And I started figuring out what kind of cultures are about meteorology within my own background in Mexico. And I come across the stories of the obsidians and observatories, and I guess that was kind of like the turn into my artistic research that tries to challenge maybe the Eurocentric point of view.
One odd question.
Mm-hmm.
Who is 𝐶𝐾𝐻? How do you pronounce it?
𝐶𝐾𝐻.
𝐶𝐾𝐻. The difficult names. Who's that?
Yeah, so that's the name of the smoking mirror in Nahuatl language. So it's an entity or a divinity associated with the winds and the night and this kind of subconscious divination. There were priests that were using these obsidian artifacts. The mirror is Tezcatl. I believe the other term refers to the smoke part. So it's very pervasive in Mexica and Aztec culture. Praise or how do you say, like an interest in this entity, which is about the nature at the end. It's nature in different manifestations.
Is it a shapeless entity or does it have a form?
It's a shapeshifter. Shapeshifter, yes, thank you.
Okay.
So it can be a person, can be the mirror, can be different ways of manifestation through what I read in literature.
So I would have just a few more things. So considering that this work is part of a larger kind of curatorial narrative, how do you think it incorporates or kind of follows the Pixxelpoint curatorial direction?
Well, I was interested to bring this aspect of resonance and atmospheres in the festival. I think the curator I was working mostly with, Peterburg, had this interest in bringing the idea of resonant atmospheres, and I believe also like with other colleagues, like with who I'm sharing the exhibition space, Sibylle Neumeyer. She's also doing quite interesting work on weather and meteorology. I believe also quite a lot focused on the part of the body and how also plants are affected by the weather and how can we read the weather through the environment in ways that are not like instrumental or data-based as I do. And resonance, I think, as a concept, also it's I think guiding many threads of Pixxelpoint. And I mean, resonance can be this artistic and scientific concept, or humanities and scientific concept that connects different ideas. So I guess this is a lot about interdisciplinarity and a lot of like finding tensions and possibilities across different fields.
Which is pretty much what you're kind of following as well, with the quite cross-disciplinary approach with data and sonification, visualization, and all of that. So yeah, I think that's quite fitting in that sense. So last thing, considering today is raining, what do you think the weather is going to be tomorrow?
The weather, how it's going to be tomorrow? I am leaving tomorrow. I hope it's a nice weather, but I just saw there were clouds, and we just were running away from those. But I have the feeling that it's gone. So
what do you think the weather is going to follow you? What's the weather that you're going to kind of get into when you get back to Finland?
I hope it's snowing. I would
Snowing?
Really like. I would love to have some snow, because it's been just very dark and miserable otherwise. But snow would be nice to have soon. Hopefully, we all wish for that.
Let's hope for a very snowy Christmas kind of
yes.
vibes.
Yes, early winter.
Okay, great. Thank you, Juan, very
Thank
much
you,
for your time. Thank you for the conversation.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Prišli smo do konca. Najlepša hvala za pozornost in poslušanje oddaje EMFAZNA ZALEDJA, ki se s to epizodo tudi uradno zaključuje. Tistim, ki ste me spremljali, se vsem toplo zahvaljujem, vabim pa vas tudi k branju likovnih kritih, ki bodo v sodelovanju s Koridorjem v kompletu objavljene do konca leta. Nekatere so že, nekatere pa še čakamo. Še posebej se zahvaljujem vsem umetnikom, kuratorjem in producentom, ki ste sodelovali kot gostje. Hvala Jerneju, da mi je občasno pomagal postavljati opremo, Adrianu, da mi je delal družbo, Barbari, Vitotu, Saši za moralni support, Hani za input za spletno stran in Kaji za logo oddaje. Thank you very much for your attention, for listening to the program EMFAZNA ZALEDJA, which officially concludes with this episode. I warmly thank all of you who have been following me. I would especially like to thank all of the artists, curators and producers who participated as guests. Thanks to Jernej to occasionally helping me to set up the equipment, to Adrian for keeping me company, to Barbara, Vito and Sasha for the moral support, to Hana for her input on the website and Kaja for the show's logo. Zadnje vprašanje. Kaj je s tem zapisom vašega imena?
Ja, nič je. Hkrati pač Peter je ta nek svetopisemski, v kamen vklesan, ne? Petros, tak zelo dolgočasen eter, če ga obrneš, če pomanjšaš p, pa vse odpre in poveže z vsem. Hkrati pa, kdo je pa rekel, da mora biti prva črka vedno v imenu velika? Nekdo je to rekel. In zdaj, če to narediš drugače in vztrajaš in si trmast, tako kot očitno trmari tu že 16 let Pixxelpoint, pa še kaj, tu sta tu 2 p-ja, pa naprej Pixel sem naredil mali p na začetku. Pol so taki virusi lahko zdravilni.
Aha, full blizu.
Sorry. Reci mi.
Moje ime je Ivana Tkalčić. My name is Ivana Tkalčić.
Okay.
Hello and welcome.
Hello and welcome.